Looks like we got 12. That's something. Hannah Payne, part 2, reacting to part 2. Is Dewey dead? Did I kill Dewey? Part 2. Welcome to the after show. It's the show after the after show. Show after the show. I should start an after show. By all logic, if the after show is so popular, the after show would have to be very, very popular, you would think. Welcome to the Communist Commanders, Commandos, Complainants. David J. Ahoy. How was the Germantown today? How was your Class C fire? Worse, way worse than Class B, but not anywhere near as bad as Class D, of course. Hello to the Comm Center, my favorite Falk narrator. The fan who says she could never make me happy, but doesn't have to try. Marine's Blood, reliable, Thursday night. Salamander, also a big fan. Sister, might be legally required to be here. She might feel bad. I don't know. I do have more than one sister, and the other one doesn't feel bad. That's all I'll say about that. She never had interest that I was alive. Never came up that she should care one iota about me. I was never as cool as her. I was always just background character in her life, extra, just a background extra. Shouldn't even have a speaking role. All right, who else we got? Dewey knows. I missed most of the show, but I'm going to go back and watch. You know, some part twos are just part twos. And the interrogation was interesting, if you're into that sort of thing. But the trial, we're really gearing up for a strong part 3. Can you guys think of any movies where the first one was really good, and then the second one was just so-so, and then the third one was pretty good? I'm thinking like Back to the Future. I really like all of the Back to the Future movies. I like the second one. I think it's more cerebral and less, and it really pays homage to the first movie, really pretty hardcore, without bringing much new to the table. Could be seen as a cash grab, but they also made the second one and the third one at the same time. And the third one plays on motif, but it's fairly different. The third one's also way darker. People almost dying and stuff. Although the second one, the part where Biff's just gonna kill him. I mean, that's pretty hardcore. Cupcakes, hello. Cupcakes in the running for being my biggest fan. I know that we've got Felony Melanie out there. Salamander, big fan. Well, Cupcakes is showing up all week for me. And Felony obviously is there for every single show. Every time I sneeze, Felony Melani's trying to get something out of it. Marine's Blood says I just keep going and I make it an after show. You know what, Marine's Blood? I think I beat you to the punch. I think every single one of my shows is an after show. I should just honestly, every time I go on, like my next show from here would be hard time or true crime, depending on how you're measuring, and I should just have it be a reaction to this video that I'm doing right now. Play the footage of me dying. We already passed that. I'm not legally or contractually obligated. That's true. Show up because you wanna. You also do it because I probably asked you to stop at some point, and you always defy me. Chase, what's up? I find interrogations and trials interesting. You have. The thing about you, Christy, is that I don't know about you because you became an adult after I was gone. So when I left, what were you watching on TV when I left? You would have been in 8th grade. But you weren't into anything that I could think of that you should have been into. Like you weren't a Dawson's Creek person. What was that show? Also on the WB with Stephen Collins and Catherine Hicks about the family, and they just had like a huge Christian family. Seventh Heaven. Were you into that? Diagnosis Murder, probably. I don't know. I don't know what you were watching. Say what you were watching in the comments. Wait, what were you watching in the summer of 2003? 2002 to 2003, what were you watching? Are you the baby? What does that mean? Am I the baby? No, I'm not the baby. I'm second of 4. So I'm not the baby. Mike Dutcher says Tremors. My buddy Casey really loves that movie. And he showed it to me once, the one with Kevin Bacon and everything. And I'm just like, I cannot believe this is something you're into. Casey and I we're very aligned in most things. Movies, complete opposite. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a strong third entry. Do you think the trilogy was tainted by Crystal Skull? Did you even see the last one? I didn't even see the last one. I am slightly older than you. Scream 2. I don't know if I ever saw Scream 2. My sister was big into Scream, so we had Scream on VHS. And it was the first slasher movie I'd ever saw, so I didn't realize it was paying homage to all these things. So I really missed out on that. Aftershows are more popular. I know. Why even have a comm center with Drew Breezy? He would say the same thing as long as he gets to cash the checks. He never asked me to stop. Did you want me to stop watching? No. I'm just making a point that you defy me a lot. Both me and David J showed up to your other show on Tuesday. Salamander, when was the last time you were in a true crime? If I missed you, I'm sorry, but I don't recall the last time that I saw you in a true crime. That must mean that Andrea had the week off, because why else would you have been on my show? Marine's Blood makes people feel special and included. I have been told that's the secret sauce that's in the after show, is that we used to have them kind of together, the comm center, and then we would take calls, and then people didn't want to call because they felt like they were interrupting, or like no one wants to raise their hand and ask a question and feel stupid or whatever. No one also wants to prolong the meeting by asking a question. So this is me directly addressing all my many fans, all 12 of you, which honestly seems like a perfectly reasonable number of fans for me to have. I was talking to Felony Melanie earlier today about how certain people around here aspire to a cult status, and how I'm not one of them. John, I need help on Super Mario Brothers World 6, Level 6. I often took the Warp Whistle past World 6, but I believe 6 is Skyland, isn't it? And if you're up on the clouds in Level 6, that one's really hard. I think there's a part where you can fly up to the top, and you have to time everything just right, because you actually have to hit a P-switch, run and fly. And then when you land, it's going to be in a coin area. So you have to fly around in the coins, but you have to get the coins carefully so that when the P-switch turns off, they all become blocks again. And then from there, you can run and fly up and around, and then you're on top, and you run and fly up again. And then you have to very carefully avoid the piranha plants. But then at the end, you get to kind of this like part where you're flying and there's nothing you can do but land in the piranha plants. So they take away the tail, and then you fall down this area between two pipes, and you're Super Mario. And then at the bottom, there's these little bitey guys things, and then they hit you again. And the only way you can get through is by going small, but you have to run out of there, because after you get hit the final time, you're kind of flashy. You have to run out of there towards the card at the end of the stage, but you have to be careful because there's a bunch of Hammer Brothers right at the end. So I think you're maybe not going up is the problem. So make sure you have a tail or a Tanuki suit. And if you're not that good, you can use a P-switch for this, a power wing for this level. If you're playing on Super Mario Brothers 3 for Super Mario All-Stars for Super Nintendo, you can just keep gathering items, and you can actually store up a whole buttload of P-wings, and this will help you get through the area if you're a weaker player, which is okay. No, you didn't watch Seventh Heaven. What did you watch? The summer of when? So the summer before I moved away, Cupcakes, would have been the summer of 2003. I moved August 2003. She moved at the same time. So that's when my sister and I's lives diverted apart. We never came back together after that. I'd barely seen her after that. Gilmore Girls. You know who loves Gilmore Girls? I bet you know. They talk too fast on that show. And everything that they did in the reboot with Rory was maddening. I'm sure you know what I mean. I don't know what else. Did you see that Gilmore Girls, the head writer of Gilmore Girls, also wrote The Amazing Miss Maisel? And it shows. When you watch that show, it's that kind of same kind of snappy beat. I haven't seen Dial of Destiny yet. The Crystal Skull was a major disappointment. Well, a lot of people don't understand how much aliens are a huge part of Aztec culture. So nobody saw it coming, right? They get to the end of the movie and all of a sudden there's aliens there. And it's like, well, if you know about Aztec culture, you know that aliens are a huge part of Aztec culture. So like, it's not confusing when you get to the end. But for people who didn't know about it, they're like, why are there aliens here all of a sudden? Probably Diagnosis Murder 2. Yeah. I defy you. Who do you think you are? You're defying me now. This is super hard to hear on there. Are you having a hard time hearing me? I watched The Lone Ranger, Bonanza, MASH, etc. What little we did watch. So, are you a lot older than me, or is that what you were watching in the summer of 2002? Don't get me wrong, I watched Bonanza and MASH too, but it wasn't the main thing I watched. Was Bones on by then? I remember Bones being like Diet X-Files. I thought it was terrible. Didn't like it. Thought David Boreanaz was better on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That was a show I watched a lot of. You're always too nervous to call. Well, I tried calling you today. You didn't answer. Law and Order. I watched all the Law and Orders, man. Right before I moved away, Christy, I was watching Law and Order 3 days a week. And this is back when SVU was very good. Recently, I've been binging SVU back to the old days. And now, like, there's like a district attorney here named Kim Graylick, and I'm just like, why isn't there more Munch? Where's Munch at? And where's Kim Novak at? Off. Can't get past like season 10 or whatever I'm on. Criminal Intent was really my thing. But I really liked the original Law and Order until Jerry Orbach left the show and passed away. That was like the death knell of that show. And it came back on starting in 2022 or whatever. I was so pumped. But it's so woke and so poorly written. Like they had this like they had Anthony Anderson returning in the role as the primary detective. He's a black guy. And his partner, Detective Cosgrove, is like supposed to be like what the writers think a conservative is. And he's just over the top, angry, confrontational, bigoted, but over the stupidest things. And so when Anthony Anderson, the black cop, tries to get him to make his point, well, you know, what do you think about defund the police? And so then Cosgrove would say like the stupidest thing. It's just like the writers of the show don't understand conservative talking points or how we think or feel at all. And it was an immediate turnoff. That and then the court half of it was so badly written. It's so stupid. Like at one point, they have a legally obtained confession. Cosgrove convinces the subject to confess, and it's all perfectly good to go. Everything that you would want, Miranda and all this. Guy declined an attorney. But then because the DA felt like it was unethical, even though it was all legally obtained, he just like, I want to prosecute him, but I don't want to use the confession. And Jack McCoy's like, fine, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. And then they fucking lose the case. And I'm like, I can't think of a district attorney that would bother to prosecute someone and not use a confession. And he just didn't like the police tactic of how it was obtained, which was the police officer lied to get it, which police officers are allowed to do. Would probably lie in every case. If Drew was here, he would tell you. And so that's why I couldn't watch the new Law and Order. And it's really too bad because I missed it. I tried to watch Organized Crime, but it was too serialized. Watched it on your channel, as I told you. Oh, yes, Salamander. I'm sorry. I wasn't even on my own channel while it was broadcasting. Andrea was not off. She came on later, and I watched her too. What did you think about that? Because I kind of got a low-key blessing to do that, to just start my own channel with my own content on it. And I was told it wouldn't be a problem. So Comm Center is the exception because this show is owned by Drew. But I think all of my other stuff will be simulcast on Difficult to Look At Pictures. If you guys want to follow me on Difficult to Look At Pictures, all my stuff will be there, I guess. I have like 56 followers, so I'll notice if any of you actually follow me over there. I'd have to talk to him about doing the after show. No, we're still building Comm Center. Everything that's related to Comm Center will just be here. Cupcakes. Watched from 98 to 2001. I was watching Xena religiously. I thought Hercules was better. I'm going to be honest with you, Cupcakes. I just can't handle a strong female lead. I thought it was very woke at the time, you know. I'm being funny, of course, Cupcakes, because a lot of people now are saying that the reason why all these movies are failing is because people can't handle strong female leads, and we've had those forever. Charmed, yep. Yep. I do know who loves Gilmore Girls and Harry Potter and Charmed. I need to watch The Marvelous Miss Maisel. It's actually about her being a terrible mom. It's like this it's like fourth wave feminism set in the era of first wave feminism. And so she's just really, she doesn't give a shit about her kid at all. Like they don't play that up at all, but like if you pay attention to the fact that she's a mom, she's behaving egregiously. No, when I called that one time. Jerry Springer. You know what's weird? When I go to the gym at night, there's this show on Game Show Network or something called Baggage or something, and Jerry Springer's hosting it. And basically, it's about whether or not people think they would be compatible with each other despite knowing each other's worst secrets. Like, you know, someone's like got a tattoo of the name of their ex somewhere on their body, or someone still lives with their parents or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure Jerry Springer died a long time ago. And sure enough, at the end, when it's rolling credits, this is 2011. I'm like, I've never heard of this show. Sound's not on. I'm listening to music when I'm at the gym, but I can't help but notice it. Parents like the older shows. They were mostly the DVDs of them. Yeah. You know what I like, Marine's Blood? When I have the complete series of MASH on DVD, which is a really nice Christmas gift, they have the option to watch episodes of MASH without the laugh track on them. And the episodes without the laugh track are so much better. Because it's kind of like The Office, right? There's no laugh track. You can just, you know when to laugh. And it's much less distracting without that. I'm on season 7 of the rewatch. There's not enough Munch. I honestly want them to put Homicide: Life on the Street so I can watch more Munch. Law and Order: Criminal Intent is massively underrated. Vincent D'Onofrio was great. He was. And then they trashed his character, though, when Warren Leight became over as the senior showrunner. Warren Leight was like, we need more character drama. We need more character arcs. So this whole thing about Detective Gorin, like, you know, his relationship with his mom and his crackhead brother and his brother dying and his cheese kind of sliding off his cracker from the stress. I didn't like that. That show, Law and Order in general, you know, they say it's about the criminal justice system, the police and all this, but the story is everything. It's always about who's the suspect, who's the victim, what are the special circumstances, what are the interesting politics behind it. And in Criminal Intent, it was all about the whole point of the show, calling it Criminal Intent. This is why it wasn't Law and Order Major Case Squad, is that it was supposed to show as much of the criminal side as it was supposed to show the police side. So like you saw the whole teaser was like the crime happening. And it's more of, it's not who done it, but how catch them, right? It's kind of like Columbo. Like, you know who did it the whole time. Columbo's going to figure it out. Detective Gorin's going to figure it out. So Criminal Intent changed that diet. And when all of a sudden you're dealing with Detective Gorin having all these emotional problems and he's getting overweight and he's not combing his hair anymore, started to throw me a little bit. And then you had the weird Mike Logan years where he came back. I thought those were okay. The problem is that Mike Logan's not a genius, so the dynamic of the show changed. They tried to partner him with all these. None of the actresses wanted to work with Christopher Noth. So every year when Mike Logan's character is on there, he has a different partner. And so he's supposed to have 3 consecutive genius female partners. It's like, okay, whatever. And then Jeff Goldblum came in there. And it was weird seeing Jeff Goldblum on Law and Order, but Jeff Goldblum's a delight. And what little I remember of the 2 years he was on that show, they were okay compared to other TV shows I might watch. And then the final year, 10 episodes on USA, Gorin and Eames were back, and those were all decent episodes. Drew says, Supreme Court allows police deception as part of an investigation as long as you don't manufacture physical evidence. There you go. Drew, I bet you can't stand watching police shows. I mean, I barely can, but Law and Order at least used to approach acceptable. And back in the day, like we're talking first 4 or 5 seasons, in the original Christopher Noth run of that show, I thought it was pretty good. You probably didn't like it because that's right when you were being a cop. It was like in 1990. So sorry. Jerry Springer is what you watch when you're home from school and you're sick, and then Maury. When I watched Maury, it actually wasn't all about who is the father. At one point he actually like was a real talk show host, and then I watched a documentary on talk shows in the 90s, and you can actually see how they change and how Jerry Springer ruined all of them. Well, we'll tell you later what I think. You know what's interesting is that Will Cray is not here. Should I call Will Cray and ask him where the F he's at? John is xenophobic. Xenophobic. If only I could read. It's so far away. I can't. The letters are so small. I love Buffy. Again, the first few seasons, very, very, very good, especially on it was so cool to have another network when the WB came on because we didn't have cable. So all of a sudden, one day I'm just turning and all of a sudden channel 43 exists. And I'm like, well, Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain are right here. And they were on in prime time too, which is weird. I have a tattoo on my back of Xena and Gabrielle's weapons. That's how big of a nerd I am. Cupcakes, maybe you can tell me how it all turned out, because I know that there was some hullabaloo back in the 90s that Xena and Gabrielle were in something of a relationship. And I didn't know if that was just shipping or if it was supposed to be subtextual or something. But, you know, now that it's 25 years later, you can go ahead and spoil it for me. I'm not xenophobic. It just wasn't my thing. John had me watch the MASH movie with the lyrics to the theme song. MASH movie was different, wasn't it? MASH movie warped me. When you realize what the movie was, and then they're like, let's make a TV show of this, you're like, how do you even think that you can do that? So it's so offensive. But it's been a while since I've seen it. I can't believe I made you. How did I make you watch the movie? I was never able to make you do anything. You'd always hit me and run away. And then tell mom and dad that I hit you, and they'd believe you. I plan to acquire every episode of Columbo. Yeah, he had 2 different runs. He there was a run in the 70s and then there was a run in the 90s. So it'll be difficult for you to do that. Just one more thing. Yeah. I've done that before with inmates where I'm like, yeah, man, I believe you. Just one more thing. And then I would completely confront them and destroy their story. And they didn't know Columbo, so they didn't know that's what I was doing. All this sitcom talk makes me want to pull a cigarette out of my metal cigarette case and my breast pocket. Drew wants to see more overt Rockford Files references. Do it if you're still watching. We need to get more Rockford Files references. I was telling him that he was saying what he used to watch when he was home from school and he was sick. And I told him that sometimes I didn't go to school because I didn't have clean clothes. And that I was very, very much watching Rockford Files because of that. Will is a slacker. Will's mad at me. Guarantee you. Will Cray just texted me. What's his deal? I called him out today for some behavior that he was up to that I didn't understand. I think he probably thought I was too aggressive about it. So you ask him, why isn't he watching old John? See what he tells you. Folk, did you watch Angel 2? Yeah, that was the weird thing. He's like, I'm moving to Los Angeles and now I'm a private detective. It's like, Angel, you're a vampire and your girlfriend's the Slayer. Is it possible that a studio executive has gotten to you? Why are you all of a sudden a private detective? I enjoyed watching Perry Mason or Chips with my grandpa and grandma. I've never seen Chips. That's the show that Drew wants to break down when we start doing our subscriber only content. He wants to do riff tracks to Chips. Perry Mason. I used to really like this show, Christy, until one of my coworkers at 911 put it on all the time and ruined it for me because I dislike him. You know what's really cool, Christy? If you like Perry Mason, you like Earl Stanley Gardner, a book that you might like, I actually think you would really like this, is called Anatomy of a Murder. It's also made into a movie with Jimmy Stewart, but it's also a book. I think you would like both of those. I think if you like trial stuff, I think you will like Anatomy of a Murder very much. And it was written by a guy who was a lawyer for many years and then later became a judge. So pretty spot on in terms of it being authentic. But it's a fictional story, so it's still interesting. It was subtextual, but yes, they were together. They referred to each other as soulmates on multiple occasions. So what? I've got a couple soulmates of various things. No big deal. This lamp's my soulmate. Not a problem. I said had, not made. Oh, you know, I don't really remember our dynamic in childhood other than to say it was contentious. I remember wanting to team up with you against our older sister, but like you two had that girl thing going on. And both of you really hated me, so I could never team up with either one of you. I would love more Rockford Files references. You're my Angel Martin. Foxy's doing the dishes. Loved in the Heat of the Night. Good theme song. I couldn't. That was a lot of melodrama compared to police work, so I couldn't really get into it. Um, and then seeing Carol O'Connor as Chief Gillespie rather than Archie Bunker, even though Archie really mellowed out in those later days, it was kind of unusual. I don't know why I'm wearing these. I don't have to have these on right now. Night Court was funny. I remember watching Night Court when it was brand new. You know what's funny, Christy? No one ever believes me. Big surprise. But about 5 years ago, I went to change.org and I started a petition to reboot Night Court because it was about 2015, 2016. All the reboots were huge. Everything was getting a reboot. Like, think about all the shows that have had reboots. The X-Files, Law and Order, X-Men. Like, everything that we love from the 90s has all come back around. Improbably. Star Trek The Next Generation had a reboot. Of all things, you had Captain Picard flying around again on TV. And so I said, bring back Night Court. And no one listened to me. And now they brought back Night Court. And like the only thing that's left is like Dan Larroquette or John Larroquette playing Dan Fielding. And so it's weird. And they also cut the theme song to Ribbons, which is too bad. What is your thought about Southland? I watched the first probably 5 episodes of that. And when you go back and watch clips now, I can see why people would hate that. They kind of showed the police more as anti-heroes. It's kind of the veteran cop, rookie cop dynamic. I think it was probably a good show. I also enjoyed Boomtown, even though that show didn't last long. But I saw a clip of Southland recently where I enjoyed this because this kid calls 911 on his mom, and he says, "My mom hit me." And then the first thing you think of is like, "Oh my God, is this a child abuse situation?" Cop takes the kid aside, and she goes, she hit me with this belt. And he goes, "Has she ever hit you before?" "No." "Well, why did she hit you?" And he's like, "Because I got suspended from school and I was mouthing off and I was doing this, that, and the other thing." And he goes, "Okay, well, give me the belt. I'm going to take that into evidence. Go back to your mom." And he goes back up to the mom, and she says, "Is it true that he's failing out of school? He's getting suspended from school and mouthing off to you?" And she goes, "Yes. And I'm just trying to discipline my son." He gives her the belt and says, "Hit him again." When he mouths off. Oh, the kid at one point says, "I know my rights." And he's just like, hit him again. That would never play on TV today, not unless it was a blatantly anti-cop show, which I guess would appeal to some, but very, very few people, I would think. I'll put it on your list. Yeah, I know. People are always recommending books and movies to me, and I never get around to it. She was never on my team. When you were teens, y'all were on the same side. No, we messed around some, like the time she stole her own car and I went with her. She didn't have a driver's license, but she has a car. She takes off with it. We just had to cruise around the neighborhood. And her Toyota Celica it had the headlights that pop up like this, but one of them wouldn't pop up. So the car always looked like it was winking everywhere that it went. Which would, by the way, was like given to her by like this weird, way older man that was like trying to woo her. My sister was always in a weird situation all the time. And anyway, she stole her own car, and we're just driving around like the parking lot of the Target store. And all of a sudden, it's the middle of the night. My mom was sleeping. We snuck out of the house, which, Christina, we all snuck out of that house. None of us did anything wrong because we were all good kids. Like, none of us were getting into any trouble at all. We just like didn't like being oppressed. We were like the first freedom fighter children. But anyway, we're driving around the back of the Target store, and all of a sudden, Mom comes charging up that little hill from the sidewalk on Kristen Drive. "What are you doing?" And we're like, "We're sorry. We should have just driven away from her stupid ass." Well, Can't go back. Can't go back and steal your own car ever again. And that was the kind of stuff that we were doing. And us being teenagers together, like she never saw me as a peer. Don't kid yourself. Like she would complain to me about the drama of her life, and then like if I tried to express like, it's really hard for me not going to school for 3 years and now trying to go to high school and really struggling. She goes, "Yeah, teenage angst." And she would ignore me and brush me off, and then she would go on, "Oh, what do I do about all the boys who love me?" Come on. It was all about her. I was just her audience. That's all I was. If I wasn't a bit player in the background, Christina was the audience. But whatever. I mean, she's not a perfect person. This is not the Bash My Sister show. I mean, I could have one of those if I want. I'm here, but my puppy is being a fucking asshole. Well, I don't know. Matlock. Do we watch Matlock? You love Night Court. Matlock. Matlock was great. I didn't love Matlock. Didn't care for it. Jag is the one about JAG officers. Yes. It was also the show that spun off NCIS. Most people don't know NCIS is actually a spinoff. They forget about JAG. They don't reboot JAG. Matlock and Jag was the shit. I didn't watch CBS. I had a thing against CBS. I never watched it. You also laugh at NCIS. Yes, in real life, NCIS is not a criminal investigatory service, even though that's right in their name. They're not really a law enforcement agency. Falk around and find out. I remember this video. I love it. What video? I wonder. I'm watching Criminal Minds. It's okay. Still the formulaic stage. Here's what I like and dislike about Criminal Minds. The theme's pretty good. Theme's always important to discuss whether it's good or bad. They actually adapt a lot of like John Douglas Mindhunter stuff. They're going after these criminals who are very similar to actual cases, and that's cool. Here's the thing that I don't like, and this is just a quibble with the show. You can still enjoy it, but the FBI should show up. They do a briefing, and then they leave. That's not how the show goes. The show goes that the FBI agents always like solve the case. It's always like with some guy, and it's always with gunplay, and they always capture the guy. And some of the stuff is like pretty sick, I guess. But it's always the FBI agents enforcing the law. There's the behavioral science unit or whatever it is they're called now. They generally go around and they just do technical advice for local police departments. That's all they do. They don't put on a badge and a gun and run around and shoot anybody. Huge fan of Andy Griffith show. I liked that when I was younger. Can't stand it now because it's the same guy that ruined Perry Mason. She brought it from one of my teachers for $500. Oh, somebody else tried to somebody else tried to give her a Jaguar. Do you remember that? And no, she's right. I'm confusing two things, but there was a guy that like tried to give her a Jaguar. It was a female teacher, and the car was an 87 or something. Who was it though? It wasn't Ferguson. It wasn't Blosser. It wasn't Leonard. Wasn't Hayes. Wasn't Carr. I don't know. King of the Hill show is the one I reference most in day-to-day life. Was that you talking to me about Daria the other day? I think that it was. You like Mike Judge. I liked King of the Hill a lot, but as the show went on, it stopped being about social commentary and just started like being a sitcom. And Peg started to drive me nuts. It got to the point where there was so much Peg, and Peggy was so irritating that I actually was annoyed by Peg. Peggy's supposed to be irritating. Peggy's supposed to be clueless and totally unself-aware. But Peggy would have a couple lines, and I would be out. By then, I was really into Futurama. Blue Bloods is the best. I'm sure it is. Like, what can you say bad about Tom Selleck and Donnie Wahlberg? But I haven't watched much of it. You didn't know anything about a Jaguar. Ask her about that, because at one point there was a guy who was associated with the Yoders, and he wanted to give her a Jaguar. Like he brought it by one time. Jenny Mahone. Do you know that Jenny Mahone? Did you know that my weirdest Jenny Mahone story and my only Jenny Mahone story She hired me to babysit her child once during the Super Bowl. That was literally my first job. Do you remember this? You probably don't. But it was some Super Bowl, Green Bay Patriots or something, and like they couldn't find anybody. So they're like, well, John's a loser. I always took this story as John's a loser, not John's responsible. And I babysat the child. So like I fed the kid and I gave him diaper changes and put him to bed. And while I was watching the Super Bowl, and I got paid for it. I probably only got paid $20, but weird, right? The idea that somebody hired me to babysit. I mean, the weird thing is that I've babysat a lot since then, but she was the one that originally babysat, that hired me to babysit. Headed to bed. He's in a different time zone. Goodbye, Dewey. We all miss you. Dewey, Drew and I have technical questions for you already. So whenever you come back to wherever you're from, you call me. I had different teachers than you did. We had at least one teacher in common. I know you had Blosser, where I had Stutzman. Did you have Hayes? Yeah. The thing is that by the time I got to 5th grade, like the bottom grades had expanded. Yes, I'm insulted you don't remember it was me. Cupcakes. I talked to a lot of people and I'm super tired today. It's nothing against you. Okay, look who's entered the chat. Los mujeres no tienen pollos. I'm just going to start calling you Las because I don't have time to say your entire name. I used to watch Third Watch back in the day. You know what? Was Third Watch was that a spinoff of ER? I watched some ER. Very little ER, but I watched some of it. I don't think I ever watched Third Watch, which is surprising. Maybe I just always hated firemen. I don't know. I don't watch any of the Chicago ones now on NBC. Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago Law, or whatever. I don't watch any of those. You also watched your kids once. Interesting. 2, Blosser and Leonard. Yeah, Blosser was the best. I didn't have Blosser. I had Stutzman for 3rd. All right, everyone knows the name of my teacher, so you've cracked the passwords. Circling back to the show, while we're collecting more comments, we were mentioning about how police officers are afraid to use their weapons because they're afraid of statutes backing them up. There's this one video, and I was actually able to find it before the show ended. It's been heavily edited, so you don't get to see the whole thing, but I'm going to play some body cam footage. The way you can tell that this officer gets chased out of a neighborhood, I'll probably play it twice, but watch it because he'll be in kind of a cul-de-sac area where there's houses, and all of a sudden he's all the way out of that cul-de-sac and he's on the main street. The guy with the knife literally chases him for half a block before he starts using force. And then when he starts using force, well, you'll see how it works out. So just for the sake of learning, and because this is Comm Center, and because it seems like my ballywick, I'm going to throw this up here. So here we go.
Put the knife down! Knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put it down! Put it down! Put the knife down, sir! Oh, please! No, 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 no! Put the knife! Shots fired, Central, shots fired! Put the knife! Hands behind your back! Ah, no, 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 no! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! No! Get on the ground, man! Tase him! No, no, no! Shut up! Hey, you good? You good? You good? Essentially, just shot to go for another.
So let's go back and watch that again. There's a part there where it flashes to white, and they edit out a massive part of it. And it's because this suspect in yellow chases the officer out of the neighborhood. This officer is backing up along this road. If you look behind him, you can kind of see this winding road. There's a tree off to the right, and this road kind of winds up. This officer backs down that entire driveway. Where he is, they're on a main drag, like a main driving thoroughfare. You can see it as a bicycle lane here. And then there's a driveway that kind of goes back to this cul-de-sac area. This guy chases him, walking after these officers for half a block, and they're so afraid to shoot him because he has a knife. And sure enough, look what happens. He fires 5 or 6 shots. The guy gets back up and keeps coming, And he keeps going at the officers, and they're like, tase him, because the gun's not stopping him. He ends up getting a hold of this officer and stabbing him and grabbing his gun. And it's because these officers were afraid of excessive force. They didn't want to be like, well, Ben Carson's going to get on the news and say, why was this officer shot 20 times? The answer, of course, being, well, we ran out of bullets. But I'll go ahead and back it up a little bit so you can see that part again. So here they are in the main drag. They've already been chased out into the street. They're heading back up towards the driveway. This is the area they're in. They're actually in this little cul-de-sac area. You can see the road bends around here, a little circular median or whatever. They're all the way back up in this part. This guy chases him all the way out. He's got a knife this entire time. We've talked about the 21-foot rule before. This guy he's clearly farther away than 21 feet right now, but it doesn't take him long to get that close. And something else to think about, and if Drew was going to pop in or if Drew had something to say, we talk about 21 feet. By the time this guy, wherever he's at, if he wanted to fully charge, he's going to be moving pretty quick, particularly if he's athletic or if he's hyped up on something. And now by the time you have an object coming at you, that's a person, by the way, and you have to draw your weapon and decide whether or not to fire, this target's going to be harder and harder to hit. I don't know if Tanner's here and if he wants to comment on it, or if there is a police officer listening. Really, any police officer can get on this right now. But yeah, Christy, good point. The cop was pleading with him. They didn't want to shoot this guy. They didn't want to. And in fact, at one point, when I play it through again, and the officer shoots him 5 or 6 times, and the guy gets up, I want you to listen to the pained sound that the officer makes. He goes, oh, like, oh no. Like he finally thought, like, worst came to worst, and I had to shoot him, but at least it's over. And it's not over. Again, this source, I think, has come from the UK, and they heavily edit out the huge retreat there. This is maybe we'll have to actually do a full breakdown of this at some point. But there's a full retreat where he's backing away, calling dispatch, asking for more backup when this guy has a knife, and he's extremely dangerous. So we're going to go ahead and watch it again.
Put the knife down! Knife down! Put the knife down!
See, in my opinion, it's really hard to tell depth of field here, but everything that I've ever learned from Drew or any other police officer, if they're within 21 feet, this guy's not dropping it, you're pretty much good to go if he's not obeying commands. I understand that, like, sometimes your conscience will beg at you and you'll say, well, I might be good to go legally, but I don't feel good about doing the shoot because I don't want to kill this guy. But look what happens when they're so afraid to use force. They let the situation get out of hand. People are getting hurt. Let's go.
Put the knife down! Put it down! Put it down! Put the knife down, sir! Please! No!
Okay, there again, you had that white flash where they edited it all out, which I've got to find the original. But they chase him all the way out of that neighborhood. And now he's on the street. And there's more than one police officer on scene that entire time. He has chased them. They are on their heels. And here they are into the street.
No! Put the knife! Shots fired, Central, shots fired! Put the knife! Hands behind your back! Ah, no! Get on the ground!
Did you hear him? This guy's taking multiple shots. They're telling him to put his hands behind his back. I guess he's still got the knife. And the officer's just like, oh, no. And I'm guessing, he's got a 9mm in there. If he's got Glock 10 or a Glock 15 or Glock 17 or something, or maybe even a Browning. I don't even know what he has, but he has more shots than that, and he's not firing. And then he's going to tell an officer to go to taser. I think he thinks because it doesn't matter how much you shoot him, we're not going to incapacitate him for whatever reason. So we're going to try to do the science part, the high-minded part, right? Where we interrupt his motor system with electricity. But even that doesn't work either. And I don't know if it's because the officer, it's kind of hard to see, if he gets tangled up drawing his taser, if he's scared. I mean, at this point, he's seen a guy basically get shot multiple times and he's back up on his feet. This is like what you would see in a survival movie, Walking Dead or something. And he's still coming, and these officers they're getting a little deer in the headlights because he's continuing to come after these officers. And by the way, look where they're at. They're out in here in the public. They're discharging their weapon now. The backstop for their firearms is the neighborhood they just walked out of. Very dangerous, and they have all these cars around. They've got to stop this guy, and they're so afraid to do it because he's got a knife, and they feel like they're in this gray area. Like, what do we do?
Ground! Get on the ground! No! Get on the ground, man! Tase him! No, no, no!
Oh man, look at that.
Shut up!
So if you didn't catch that,
Put the knife! Hands behind your back!
so this is Officer 1. So he shot him several times. The guy stands up and then comes for him, and that's when we switched to Officer 2's body camera.
Ah, no, 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 no! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! No!
This whole time, they should be continuing to shoot. Both of them should be. Because, Drew, we've talked about this before. We're not shooting to kill. We're shooting to stop the threat, right? And that's why we'll talk about cases where guys are what the media and what social justice warriors will say is overkill. And it's because you shoot until you stop the threat.
Get on the ground, man! Tase him!
So that whole time, too, this guy's been within 21 feet, been totally good to shoot, because look at how fast he overcomes the officer. So this officer's about to be overcome, and we switch to the second officer to see what happens to him.
No, no, no! Shut up! Hey, you good? You good? You good? Essentially, just shot to go for another shot.
Did you see that? He's saying he got my gun and all that. He's worried about weapon retention. He may have been stabbed, which I hope not. But he shot several times trying to stop this guy, and it wasn't enough. And I don't know what went on inside his mind, and I'm not judging him at all. I've never been in that situation. That situation is scary as fuck. I hope he's okay. But this is what Drew and I were talking about when we were worried that like law enforcement officers now have been bullied by our culture and our politicians, especially, and also by our media, that we don't want to be seen as over aggressive. We referenced this on an episode of Hard Time. There's a clip from the old movie, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. When it's time to talk, talk. When it's time to shoot, shoot. And these guys were still attempting to talk it out when it was time to shoot. And I'm a trained hostage negotiator. I don't get a lot of practice in. I had more practice in the past week than I want to admit. But there is a time where you have to cut your losses, and the preservation of life, you almost have to retreat the way this officer is, right? The original line that you're drawing to preserve life is everybody. Through a series of choices, though, the suspect will forfeit his right to be within that inclusive line of preserved life by failing to follow commands, by continuing to charge officers, and in this guy's case, by not dying. Both of those officers, though, should have been lighting him up. Why wasn't the second officer shooting? The first officer was, and the second officer wasn't. Is it because he wanted the first officer to just kill him or shoot him and neutralize him, and that way he wouldn't be involved in the whole officer-involved shooting thing? I don't know. I don't know what's going through his mind either, and I'm not trying to blame him. I'm blaming a culture where we don't empower police officers to take necessary action, to the point where this officer's shot a guy multiple times. The guy ends up grabbing him. He's got a knife, and then he's worried about his weapon. The guy's taking his gun, and you saw the end of that, and it's sad. And because the other police officers have to grab him. Man, are you okay? He's laying prone on the ground. He's a victim at that point. He's someone they have to save. He went from being an asset, someone who's protecting others, to being someone who had to be rescued. And it's just terrible that he was in that position, and I'm sorry for him. And I'm not criticizing. And I don't want, if he somehow ever saw this, I would say to you, man, I'm not criticizing you. I'm scared for you, and I'm scared for police officers that are put in that situation. And whatever went through your mind shouldn't have, because you should have felt that you were safe to stop that threat before he got to you. I want you to be safe. I don't care about that guy compared to you. I don't care about that suspect compared to you. I care about your life, officer. That's what I care about. So as the show was ending, I was watching and I was thinking about that video and just how much it meant to me, like in terms of how police officers and policing has changed. Tyler S. is here. He says, yeah, I finally made it. Las mujeres. Not great police work right there. Okay. I'm glad you said that because it opens up this opportunity for me. Thank you. You've seen this show. You've probably seen other shows that Drew and I have been associated in the past. Any kind of police breakdowns, law.news, Las Mujeres. That comment right there, not great police work right there. It's the first thing everyone says. Why? It's fine. We can have critical analysis of our government and of the people who have authority over us and how to be better police officers and how to be safe. Well, where's the discussion about this fucking asshole who picked up a knife and charged at police officers? Honestly, where's the discussion about how criminal behavior is just completely unchecked in our society? The first thing we do when we look at a video like this is like, well, what did the cops do wrong? And maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I'm speaking broadly for all situations in which we're reviewing police footage here. Whatever it is you're watching. But why is that the default thing? What did the cops do right? What did the cops do wrong? We need to stop as a society and say, like, whoa, why were the police called to this situation, right? We don't have that context from this video. But why were police even involved? Why were they called to this situation? Why did a man pick up a knife and choose violence? Why did he forfeit his own life through his own insane actions? Why did he refuse to drop his weapon? Why is it that we're seeing a rise of that? We're seeing that on all these shows that we all do, all these things. We're seeing people we have a serious failure to comply issue, definitely since 2020. People feel like they don't have to submit to police commands. They don't have to do what police tell them. They feel free to resist arrest, to be violent towards police officers. Why is that? I mean, I'm not saying it's a new phenomenon, but it's definitely spiking violence towards police officers. And it doesn't always end in violence, but we do get people being belligerent with police officers where they're not complying. And so we need to address that behavior first. We could talk about police officers, that's fine, but we're getting to the point now where we're taking a mental shortcut. We're going straight to what did the cops do wrong? And I want to invite you and anyone else to put on the brakes and say, what is society doing wrong? You say police need to be retrained. Society needs to be retrained because this is the society that they're responding to. And not all police officers and not all police departments are created equal. And when you take funding away from them and when you make them timid, when you make them think that even if they do everything right, they're still going to go to prison like Ben Darby, this is the inaction that you get. Inaction is just as dangerous as wrong action. That's what I'm trying to show here with this video. Is that outside forces are exerting pressure on this police officer to make a decision, a split-second decision that I'm not qualified to make. I'm not a police officer. A split-second decision, and now he has something else in the back of his mind, right? He has his use of force continuum. He has the law, the totality of the circumstances he's in, but now he's got this little voice, this little Ben Crump on his shoulder saying, I'm going to get you. He's got Don Lemon from CNN or whoever else saying, we're going to get you. And he's got flashes of his hometown being set on fire and protests because of what he did and having to go to his commanding officer and say, I fucked up. And having to be on the wrong side of a courtroom and having a jury say, you don't get to see your wife ever again. You know, why is that on his shoulder when he's in this situation? It shouldn't be. He should feel backed up by us to stop that asshole. We all agree that guy's an asshole, right? Who here's pro that guy? Put a 1 in the chats if you're pro that guy. Come on. That's all I'll say about that. I'll probably say a lot more. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hello, Tyler S. Cop was pleading with him. Yeah, the cop was pleading with him. I mentioned that briefly. The cop really did not want to shoot him because police officers aren't murderous. They're people like you and me. They don't want to be stuck in the shitstorm of the paperwork. They don't want to be going to court on this for 3 years. They don't actually want to take a life. It means something to them. They don't want to have to go. They don't want to have to say their career had an officer involved shooting in it. They never want to draw that gun. Your description analysis is spot on. Thank you, Drew. Glock 17, 19. Yeah, my brain kind of farted on various Glock models there. I used to carry a Glock 17, and I was trying to remember how many rounds it had in it. Because I'm tired and because I'm podcasting, and remember. The point is, Mike, I'm sure you'll agree, he still had more rounds on him. And the officer still had another full magazine in his weapon. And honestly, if they had done the whole Alpha Bravo thing, switch off thing, they could have been shooting him all day until he was finally done. The Kyle Dinkheller scenario is an identical situation. Well, Drew, make a note of Kyle Dinkheller. Maybe we should break that down when we're done with Hannah Payne. You could tell there are no state troopers there. I don't even know what that means. GSP. Oh, because the Georgia State Patrol is no joke. Yeah, they have a bit of a reputation, but isn't that kind of what we should all aspire to be? Is like super professional, and we should always get our man. I forget the 41s. Glock is confusing with nomenclature. I don't own a lot of different kinds of firearms either, so sometimes I just have to kind of rely on the knowledge I have lying around. The officer getting strapped. What are you saying? Strapped. Still said tase him after the second officer shot. Brutal and insane, right? And so we all think. I just think this video should be played to anyone who's like, "Why would you shoot a guy with a knife? Right? Why would you bring a gun to a knife fight?" These idiots say, "Show this video. Just show this video." And when you build a case that's crumbles on a single negation point when it can be destroyed by one example, the whole argument falls down because an officer's not going to risk his life that this situation is not the same as that. So don't build an argument with a single point of failure, a single point where nullification and negation can take it down. This is the case that I just showed you that negates the argument that police officers should not be firing at people with knives. Look at how it played out. We had a show recently where we were talking about knife attacks. We had a whole show on that. But this one by itself shows that a police officer with a gun firing multiple times is still very liable to get stabbed. And it was a brutal thing to see. Oh boy, do I want to call in right now. We'll have calls in a little bit. Do it, David. Call David. Every gun makes its own tune. Have I heard that recently? I texted John. I'm not looking at my phone. There's no real reason to text me. Not great parenting off that guy with a knife. Yes, we don't need to get into a whole parental illness thing because once you reach the age of 18 and you're the age of majority, we can blame parents all we want, but individualism and self-determination really kick in, and a person can completely disregard the way they were raised. So I kind of get sick of the whole blame the parents thing because maybe the parents are ashamed and heartbroken by this man's behavior as well. We have a revolving door in our prisons here. Do you mean the jails or do you mean the prisons? And the cops are blamed for all the crime. They arrest people, they get out, and often arrest again the same crime days later, or even the same shift later. I had at least 5 calls for service at one house today. I didn't answer the phone for all of them, but the phone kept ringing, and it kept being the same person, and it kept being a cluster of related issues. And it was like police officers were dealing with that early in the morning before the sun came up to well around noon. And it was one house. And it was because police officers have discretion, but they don't have ultimate discretion about what they can do in a situation. Because they become bold because they know they won't get held. Yeah, bond is a problem in a lot of places. Really, this is where you would want Daniel Cardaway to be the expert on bond. And I know how my bond schedule has changed since 2020, that we're not holding people for the same things that we used to. I hear you, Christy. Judges and prosecutors don't hold people accountable. The judges are the ones who set the bond. And prosecutors, maybe. You got to remember, Mike, prosecutors are also people like us where they have a lot of cases going on and a lot of stuff on their docket. And we never know what the competing interests are for the prosecutors. You never know what case they have that's more important, right? Just every time I have to hang up on a baloney call because I have something else serious going on, what prosecutor is handling a more serious case? All I guess I would say is let's try to see prosecutors as human too. Correctional officers aren't laying down on the job. 911 operators aren't laying down on the job. Cops aren't laying down on the job. Although being a lawyer is kind of on a different realm because you're hypothetically going to go play golf with the judge at some point. Micah, you and I are not on that tier. I believe a lot of prosecutors do the right thing. David, you will be allowed to call in. You will be allowed to call in. Just let me catch up on the chats and then we'll get you to call in. We're up here in the Great White Northie. Oh, the Great White Northie. I believe in parental licensing, John. You are preaching to the choir. As long as you're joking, yes, I agree with you. I bet Tyler, I used to live much further north. Yeah, Micah lived in the Canada of the United States. They make some changes to hopefully keep some people who should never be out, but it's rough. You know, I know you know. Yeah, he knows. He knows. You know, he knows. He knows. Don't you have his number? David has my number. Believe me. I gave David. Did I give you a ride once? I think I gave you a ride. No, I failed to give you a ride. No, I think it was Tyler. I failed to give a ride. I definitely gave Will Cray a ride in Deadleg. I picked somebody up from a hotel. 2 people. I don't remember who they were. I was actually listening to myself on another podcast while they were riding with me. I'm just like, well, you're catching me in my most conceited moment. I was listening to myself on the 10-8 podcast. There you go. 17 plus 1, 17 in the mag, 1 in the chamber. Thank you. There you go. 15. There you go. Point is he wasn't shot 15 plus 1 times, was he? Helen, Georgia, the street rots have the Glock and a switch way too often. I believe you. Lauren, hello. Hello to all the people who never come to our show when it starts actually at 8 o'clock. Good to see you all the same. Woman driving drunk killed a mother of 3, and she got released on $1,000 bond. Pathetic. Was it her first offense? The thing is that bond is not meant to punish anyone. You have a constitutional right to bond. The thing that bond is for is to make sure you appear in court. She also wouldn't have been bonded out until she was sober. So she was probably sober, and then they bonded her out. And then the bond is just supposed to make her show up in court. She would have gone to court. She would have had a hold trial for that, or a plea bargain, or whatever, where she would be held to account. So don't get too upset on the $1,000 bond. What you should be upset about is all the times where we have people who are getting 0 bond. They're released on their own recognizance. And here's the thing, too. Here's the disparity that we're really talking about, Los Mujeres. So your situation is angering, right? Mother getting drunk, killing 3, and she got released on $1,000 bond. If this is her first offense, I don't want her to have no bond because she killed somebody. But if anyone's going to get a personal recognizance bond, I would say it's her. The people that we're giving personal recognizance bond to is the gangsters, the gangbangers, the people who have rap sheets a mile long because the criminal justice system has given up on holding them accountable. We don't even bother with those guys. We know they're going to skip bail. We know there's just going to be a warrant issued for their arrest. And we just empty out the jail and like, well, okay, we know who this is and we know what they're doing. And again, the bond isn't necessarily determined by the person. It's scheduled. But it seems like if Tanner were here, he would jump in with me. He would say that the criminal justice system works so hard to come down hard on people where it's their first offense. And then once someone's a habitual criminal for life, we're not even trying with them anymore. We're not even trying to hold those people accountable. The people that would make you the most sick and the most mad are not getting that accountability that what you're looking for. And that's what makes me mad. But he was on some kind of medication. I have no doubt he was on something. I don't know how you take 3 or 4 shots to the gut and then get up. I was recently covering a case on true crime where maybe it was true crime. No, it was Hard Time, where we were discussing executions as a means of capital punishment. And there's a doctor who was talking about what it feels like to get shot. And he says it just feels like a really strong tackle and having the wind knocked out of you. And so we've seen like that cop up in Everett, Washington, a week or 2 weeks ago, where he was shot by the state trooper. He's advancing with a hammer. The trooper shoots him and he drops him. Right. Most people getting shot, it immediately takes away their will and ability to charge at an officer. This guy had a little something special going on that he was able to continue to pursue the officer and chase him around. And this officer, by the way, you didn't see how far he had retreated. He was probably tired from walking backwards. You ever see people at the gym and they turn around on the treadmill and they're kind of hiking up backwards? Going backwards, going downhill, trying not to fall over, the adrenaline that he had surging that entire time, that officer was probably exhausted by the time this guy casually walked him down the hill. What's up? You guys are surviving the heat. Almost to the chats. Las Mujeres. Now, if you want those entitlement program checks, you should need I almost said beard. I'm just like, I agree. You should need a board of your peers to approve your parental abilities. The problem is that what you're talking about is a brand of eugenics. When we're talking about people having the right to breed and propagate the human race, This is very George Bernard Shaw type thinking. This is very like Marxist, very fascist type thinking. Again, we talked about this last week, Los Mujeres. What is a fascist government? It's a big government with the most control. If we want a government that can decide when someone else can have a baby, you're talking about China. You're talking about a fascist government. And although bad parents are going to happen and have bad kids, the solution is not to all of a sudden get the government involved in the regulation of births. The government doesn't do anything well. Believe me, I work for the government. You do not want them involved in deciding when people can have babies, even if they're on entitlement programs. What you should do is get rid of the entitlement programs, because a hungry person is going to go out and try to feed themselves. I like your comments, though, Los Mujeres, because you're provocative and you force me to defend my position. So keep it up. Luckily, it's cooled down where Lauren is. 99 there today. Almost 85 here today. So very hot. Nothing to do with race, though. No one even said that. No one even would even hear it think. Foxy out in Bakersfield, California was at 105. Still above 100 degrees. We have many jury judgments on life or death cases. All right. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let's put the number on the screen. David J. paid me $2, which is something, so you could call. Let me make sure it's all plugged in, ready to go. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second while I put you into the show, okay? Should be coming in any second now. David, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Can everybody hear David? Indicate with a 1 in the chat if you can hear David. Hello, David. How are you, old friend?
Just getting good news and stuff like that, and just waiting.
Good news for what?
Well, I'm not going overseas anymore.
Oh, you're not going overseas anymore. That's good.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be going this month, weren't
you? By the end of next month, I was supposed to be.
Well, I'm glad you're not going anywhere. So what is it you wanted to call in about? Was it something related to that shooting?
Yes. So Officer Dean Keller is a video that is identical to this scenario. It's something that I break down in my courses that I teach in the Navy, and it's a subject that gets taught throughout the Navy. The 21-foot rule gets applied almost in every course of instruction that I've gone through. It gets taught. There's a lot of questions with this that has to be asked, just like the Dean Keller case is. Was there already use of force complaints made against these officers that prevented them from acting quickly like they should have? Was there something else going on, or some sort of training going on that prevented them from doing this? Because Dean Keller, he already had 3 use of force complaints used against him. So when the situation arose for him to actually shoot the subject, he went into what we call an OODA loop, where he just kept repeating the words over and over again. Kind of what this officer did, where he just kept repeating over and over again to drop the weapon, to get back, things like that, and started walking backwards. So there has to be a more breakdown into it of what was going on, what was the past situations that occurred to make this officer do this. The second officer, I don't know what was going on with that. I don't know what their train of thought was, that they didn't want to act quicker. I think it might be a training thing. It might not be a department policy thing. It's hard to say what was going on at the time that caused this to happen. So it seems like there needs to be more information put out afterwards, because this situation should have never happened just because of the Dean Keller case.
You make a lot of good points, particularly about the previous use of force things. If we have a police officer get into a use of force situation and they're not ruled as justified, we're kind of kicking them in the balls. Are we making them gun shy next time? I wonder if that was the case here.
Yeah, I hate to see it happen, just because I feel like case studies, like breakdowns that yourself and Drew do and things like that, that like this information has been put out for years and years. So now this situation with the current climate is it just turning into, you know, the situation again where, like you said, our cops becoming hesitant because of Ben Crump or because of, you know, the atmosphere of the political situation with citizens.
I have no doubt that's true. I mean, I don't have the entire context of the situation. It's possible that this police officer was maybe just not built for the job. That's possible. But there is also a possibility that he just was in a situation where he doubted himself because of, like you said, the previous uses of force or policy or whatever. But the point is, without ever knowing that, you can still take any police officer and put him in this situation where he's not shooting when it's time to shoot for whatever reason. And we see the bad outcomes of that. And so, and just especially since this guy has a knife, I think it's a good case study on what happens to police officers who are squaring off against guys with knives and they're afraid to shoot.
Very true. Also, so gunshot. I've talked to people who've been in gunfights with people. Not a lot of people drop quickly, especially if adrenaline's going on. So even if they're on PCP, if they're on, you know, khat, which is a drug in Africa, if they're smoking hookah or something or hashish, sometimes when the body gets hit, the muscle contracts around that bullet to basically turn into a tourniquet. So all that forward momentum, all that adrenaline is going to cause people to keep going. They're not just going to stop right away. So there's a possibility this person was just running off of adrenaline and, you know, just didn't want to lose the fight.
It's possible. That's the scary thing is that, you know, the idea that, I mean, certainly that he's on drugs and the idea that the muscles contracting around it and basically essentially making him bulletproof. Very scary. You would not want to see that. But yeah, I mean, you could hear in the officer's voice after he got this guy down on the ground, he thought it was over. And then the guy gets up. That the idea that he just spent all that effort, that energy, the adrenaline, finally got to the point of shooting. You know, now he can't hear. He's probably disoriented just from the sounds and everything that just happened, and just his brain catching up to reality. And then the guy gets up. I mean, like I said, it's like one of those arcade games in the mall where you've got the rifle and the dead just keep getting up and coming after. You know what I mean?
True, very true. I mean, the officer did what he could, but I mean, I think he acted a little late than he should have. I mean,
there's no doubt that he
I
was.
think any IA
late.
case against him.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he was late, right? Like I said, even early in the video, that it was time to shoot because the guy was not obeying commands. He was coming closer. The part that we missed, the thing that makes me mad is that. So I just pulled this right before the show because I'm like, oh, let's talk about this. Is that if I can find the unedited version, you will see this police officer backing up for what feels like an eternity. He's literally walking backwards and the guy's following him. And the media, of course, is like, well, this is the boring part. We're going to cut this out so that we could just show this little clip of this officer, you know, fighting this guy, shooting this guy, getting taken hostage or whatever. We're just going to show the badass parts or the interesting parts. But to you and me, intellectuals, we're going to say like, well, this whole part here too, where he got chased out of the neighborhood, that matters. That is worthy of discussion. Why is this officer on his heels retreating? We don't want to see this. And of course, the media, like I said, they just cut it all out.
Especially if the officers already asked the person, told the person, the next step is to make the person. So again, he took too long to make the person stop. So it's a very sad situation.
Yeah, it's scary just because that situation got massively out of hand. And you know what scares me the most of all? I guess it doesn't scare me, but it makes me sad. What makes me sad most of all is that there's probably, you know, I'm sure there was a review of this officer involved shooting. And the review probably was for him like, you failed to act. You failed to shoot this guy earlier. You retreated, and shades of yellow. You know, like why weren't you discharging your duty as a police officer to shoot this man earlier? Why did you allow him to, you know, back you all the way up? And then there was another officer there too. Like there was another police officer. If you watch the beginning of that engagement, there's a second officer. You can hear him giving commands. Why did both of them walk up or walk away?
Yeah.
So
I think the second officer is more at fault than anything. I mean, he definitely failed to engage when he should have engaged, and he allowed the first officer to get into that situation that he got into after the shots were fired.
That's the thing too about having strength in numbers, is that it helps you have strength in your decision making, right? Is that you know it's the right thing or whatever. Because when you'll see an officer doing the same thing and it's kind of like reassuring or whatever, you feel like that, the strength in numbers, and then it doesn't happen. What I hope is that the police department looked at this and they said, what's going on with their training? What's going on with their policy? Why do we have at least 2 officers here, if not a third, who are afraid to do what they're supposed to do? Shocking. By the way, Salamander and Las Mujeres are both discussing whether or not you're cute. So I don't know if you want to go ahead.
I know. I've seen the chat.
If you want to go ahead and put out your number to see if you're cute, I think that David, he's average looking or better. He's not exceptionally tall, but that's okay. It works for him. But he's more of an intellectual. I can remember standing outside of Tansy's studio, and David and I actually had a long conversation out there, and it would have gone on longer, except I became extremely ill and went home to the hotel. So if David's cute or whatever, but remember, ladies, the biggest organ you need to be concerned about is the brain, and definitely David has one of those. So David, if you want to leave your number in the chat, so Las Mujeres and Salamander can meet up with you and possibly find a soulmate in you, that would be great.
So John, funny story about my height. Okay, so recently got my blood work done and everything else like that, and 15 minutes after the appointment, I got a phone call asking about my height and weight. So I told the nurse, I was like, yeah, I'm 6 foot, I'm 72 inches. By the next week, I looked at the documentation that they submitted electronically, and the nurse had written that I was 5'11.9.
Oh, so they took 1/10 of an inch away from you.
Yes.
Why would they do that? To put you under 6 feet?
I don't know. I have no idea. I thought it was the meanest thing that somebody has ever done to me.
Yeah, I would never seen anyone's height expressed as a fraction of an inch before. Like, to your point though, like, I used to know. I was at the aquarium in Baltimore, and the aquarium in Baltimore has this thing where it scans you with lasers and it tells you exactly how tall you are. And it told me you are 6'5 3/4, which is exactly the length, 1/6 of an average sperm whale. It kind of tailors it back to creatures of the sea, but it measures you with lasers. So since I was 17 or 18, I've known I'm 6'5 3/4. I go to the doctor's office now. They're like, take off your shoes, back up against the wall, and they put the little thing down on my head. And they keep saying I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that I've lost almost 2 inches in this amount of time? I don't believe it.
It's as if the doctors just need to round down for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if someday your doctor's visit's going to be fully integrated into your dating profile. They just don't want you committing fraud on the ladies. I don't know.
I don't know, but I did find some documentation from 2011, and at the time I was skinny, but for some reason the doctor had written my weight down as 240 pounds, and I never noticed it until now. And I'm like, I was never 240. I was never that heavy.
I was going to say 240 would be heavy for you at being just slightly under 6 feet. I doubt that the Navy would let you get to that point.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Someone's scales are messed up.
If you were 240 and under 6 feet, there would be portholes inside a ship you wouldn't be able to get through. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I think doctors just hate me. I think that's what it is.
Apparently, they think I'm cute too. I'm 6'5 3/4. And David is a full 6 feet with shoes on, Las Mujeres. So if you're going to take him out on a date, or he take you, he's a full 6 feet tall. A nurse was just being mean to him. And you have to remember too, this is a government nurse. This is a nurse being paid by TRICARE. This is a nurse with skin in the game. So I'm sure that if you saw David, you would realize he was a full 6 feet tall. He's got a big old brain inside of him. Definitely fun to talk to. You could do way worse than David. Don't be shallow. David would not disappoint you as someone to go on a date with. I kind of went out on a date with him. I was hanging out with him for a while outside there. He was way taller than Will, who's not here tonight, which, by the way, I meant to ask you, what's going on with Will? Where is he right now? Is he mad at me?
I don't know. He's texted me quite a few times already, but he hasn't said anything back about not coming in today for the show.
What's his deal? Can you ask him what his deal is? Can you just say what is your deal, Will? Are you mad at John?
Sure.
Do you want me to bring you up to speed on why I think he's mad at me?
Was it during the legal shift?
Yeah. Because he's talking about how he likes. He's talking about how he likes supporting creators, which is nice, and how he liked buying the Patreon because it supports the creators. Well, I asked him, I'm like, "Are you enjoying your exclusive Patreon content?" And he's just like, "What exclusive content?" Exactly my point. I'm making exclusive content in a hard time. Every Friday, I'm dropping a whole other episode. It's like 100% extra content plus even more stuff. David, you're getting my emails. I don't know if you like the emails. I don't know if you like the pictures. I don't know if you like the stories. I don't know, but it's something you're getting from me. I'm putting time, effort, and energy into the people who send money. Ultimately, to Jake, it's not even coming to me, but I follow through with that stuff. And what bothered me is he's like, well, I can't pay for hard time because I only have.
Still there, Joe?
You're getting. And, you know, he just was saying that he's not getting anything extra for it. And so, like, I was a little pushy about it, but I'm just like, why are you giving money to somebody that doesn't care about you? You know, there's a whole platform there where people are spending money to get extra stuff. And the only one who ever did extra stuff was this guy, right? And this guy did not have creative control over it. It didn't have control over when things were posted or what. So this guy like decided, well, I'm just going to do things on my own. And so whatever, you could give money to whoever you want to give to. And if you love that Patreon, if you love the people that are running it, I'm okay with that. You can give money to them. But you know, I don't understand why you're going to give money to someone who could take you or leave you when I will work so hard for you if you're my customer. That's all I wanted to say. And I don't want to hurt Will's feelings.
No,
I care about Will. I like Will.
I enjoy the emails. I enjoy the pictures.
Well, I care about Will and I like Will.
Like you too.
I'm not trying to alienate him, but I did question just some of his reasoning. That's all.
No, I get where his mindset is. I mean, might as well support the creators that you like. I mean, there's worse people to get your money.
I guess if he's going to give money to someone that he likes who doesn't care about him, that's his business. If he wants to give his money to someone he likes who cares about him back, somebody that ate enchiladas with him, that's this guy. That's all I'm saying is don't forget that. Anything else on your mind, David?
No, I really enjoy this type of breakdown just because it's something that I teach on a very, very often basis.
Send that case to me in an email. You have my email address. Send it to me. I'll send it to Drew. I'll see if he'll do an exception because it's not 911 related to do, you know, shoot or no shoot drills, but it is something that Drew would have a field day with because he's a police officer, and I would be willing to cover it on the show. So send me whatever it is you have.
In this case, I mean, I train to the video itself because they have the dash camera.
Okay.
In my training slides, so I teach to the video, and then I discuss the background of Officer Dean Keller, and because everybody breaks it down of like, oh, he should have shot here, he should have done this, blah blah blah, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Does anybody know the history about it? And when everybody says no, then I go into the in depth of explaining, okay, this is why he didn't do this. This is his mindset right now in accordance with the investigation.
I would be interested in breaking this down, especially if you say it's similar to this case. So like I said, send it to me. I'll review the video, and then I bet I could get Drew's juices flowing on it. And I've told him before that ever since we broke off on our own that, like, you know, we're a show for dispatchers and we're here to talk about that stuff, but dispatchers care about police work, and I think it's okay if we just have a regular blue episode. It doesn't always have to be gold. So I'll talk him into it if you send it to me.
Okay, will do.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. I hope you're staying cool out there in San Diego or wherever it is you're at. And I appreciate you calling in. And I appreciate you sending $2 to me. You didn't have to pay $2 to get on the phone with me, man. I'm going to take your phone call.
I know you are. I was just like really excited.
Well, I'm glad you get excited. I'm glad I got you on the phone, and I really appreciate you adding an extra layer of complexity to the case because, like I said, I was talking about what do these guys have in their minds, right? Society, culture, Ben Crump, and then you added that other layer where you said, like, what have they already been through as police officers? And I think that's even more important. I think that their personal experience as police officers is going to come to them in mind before Ben Crump. So it was an excellent layer to add. It was an excellent point, and I appreciate you bringing your expertise to bear, David.
Oh, of course.
All right, man. Well, I will catch up with you next week, hopefully.
Will do.
All right, man. Well, you have a good night.
Love you.
Bye. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. That was David J. Handsome man. Apparently, why do looks matter? Why do looks matter? This is an audio presentation. Why do looks matter? You know, even if I'm good looking, it doesn't mean I'm a good person. It doesn't mean that I'm a good friend. It doesn't mean I'm like someone that would be kind or respectful. You know, there's other things going on. If you put on a dress, they would mark you Bigfoot height, I bet. I have a whole anecdote about Bigfoot. David does not sound heavy at all. He's not. He is svelte. He is like a gazelle. Ripley, muscles, and all that. He's basically whatever you want him to be. I'm just really going to sell him. Las Mujeres, you can reach me at difficult to look at pictures. Send me a message. I don't know what your alternate identity is other than Las Mujeres. I'm sure you're not called that on all platforms, but send me a direct message. Say, hey, this is Las Mujeres. I would like David's phone number, and then totally disrespecting David, I will just send that to you. Very easy. Brains are legit, but can he grow a beard? He can't because he's in the Navy, but as soon as he's retired, he will be able to grow a beard, I'm sure. Beards are important. Yes, yes. I have a sweet beard. Yes. Guys, I have a haircut tomorrow. I'm going to get rid of the beard because I want to see if you guys still love me without it. I honestly want to know. Salamander says my beard game's on point. She's sending money because of my beard. We got Lauren saying that beards are important. Fox saying it's so important. Back in the 90s, by the way, nobody had a beard. They have beards now, so you have to wonder in 5-10 years, are beards going to be the end thing? But I want to know if you guys will still love me without a beard. I want to know if you guys will still watch. I want to know if it's really about me or if it's really about my beard. We had somebody, was it April, saying that she just wanted beard shavings from me or something, some kind of something like that. Where all she wanted was basically tape of my dog or my beard or something. And so I really want to know, is it me? Is it the beard? Because if it's the beard, I can have the beard preserved. And the beard can do 5 podcasts a week, and I'll just do 4, and like that'll save me a lot of effort. Did the sound go bonkers for a second, or am I hallucinating? Probably. This thing right here, this cable that goes in my microphone, it's not great. And also, I just burped a whole bunch because I just drank a whole bunch of booze. And it's hitting me really fast. All the booze, somehow, does booze settle at the bottom or at the top? But I finished my little cocktail here because I had a chance to drink it while David was talking. And so now it's hitting me kind of fast. So I apologize. Apologize for any lack of adroitness. I'll say that. John for president. Someone else said that today. I could never run for president. You know why? Because I love freedom so much that I could never be in a position where I had authority over anyone. I would feel it was anathema to me. The email reply person called me a chicken. What? You're not a chicken. You're saying that hens don't have, girl hens don't have cocks or whatever you're saying. He will work for us. I don't even know what you guys are talking about right now. Tanner drops even more money. Spend money on John because I care. Tanner, you should have been here a little bit ago. We played a video on a shoot, no shoot drill in which a police officer was driven out of a neighborhood by a man with a knife. I know that you are someone who carries a gun and you enforce the law. However bonkers and crazy that law may be, I would have loved to have your take on it. If you wanted to call in, we could replay the video. And I would love to get your take. If you call in, Tanner, we will replay the video and you can have your take about what you would have done as a law enforcement officer. Love a guy with strong trigger control. When did my show become Sex with the City? You know, I'm not ready for that. Tanner, if you call in, we'll do a special big case breakdown, just you and me. We already showed the video one time. Some people think some things about it, but I would love to have you on here as the police expert. Drew's not here. You could be the police expert to me. Tanner, just earlier today or yesterday, you were saying you missed us teaming up to enforce the law across the world. We're both 10-7 right now, hopefully. But if you want, you call in here and we will break down the shooting that we just showed. So, Tanner, I encourage you to call in because you're a good police officer. You call in here and we will watch that video and break it down. Give all my extra money to John and Jake. The money I can't spare too. Beard maintenance. Do you need a kickback, Salamander? Like I can send you back some of that money. You could have a couple shows on me. You've been a good fan, good friend, very chatty. Even though you say that I drive you to drink, if you ever need a kickback or something, you want me to get you some Arby's or something, you let me know. What do you drive though? What is the most important? What does David drive? I don't even know that he drives. If he lives on base, he probably just drives a Nimitz class aircraft carrier, which has to be something. You guys already know last March, you know what I drive already. A 2014 Ram and a 2014 Challenger that you're not impressed by. People cannot judge someone else's perception in a use of force scenario. Risk assessment is personal and different for everyone. I instruct this type of thing, and people don't fully understand. It's the totality of the circumstances. You're informed not only by the totality, but your experience as a police officer, your training, and what a police officer in your community would do. That's the interesting thing about Tanner, too, is that he's in a different community than many of us, and that the standards, the expectations there are different as well. A police officer has to meet the needs of his community. And when you live in a different community, the needs are different. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to completely change the outcome of what you do, but it is something that's in a police officer's mind. It's part of that totality. Sorry, John, but I came here for your looks and I stay for the voice. I'm glad you like both. I don't know what to say. Oh my God, that sounds suspicious, John. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what you're referring to, Lasmo Harris, about me sounding suspicious. You can call me after retirement then. You know, Salamander, maybe he'll find something to accept in you that others have rejected. That's the thing. You know? Maybe we can all find a little acceptance to each other. Don't you fucking dare. She says, I think this is in response to me cutting off my beard. I want to know if you still like and respect me without the beard. I want to be more than just a cluster of scraggly hairs to you. I don't want to be just a beard. I used to be just the tall guy. And then I was the bearded guy. And I've never been just the funny guy. I've never been just the smart guy. I want to be the funny, smart guy. You guys can't appreciate how tall I am. That one's forfeited. Now the beard is sort of the last frontier. He's the bearded guy. I want to see if you still like me without the beard. I think that's reasonable. And since I work at 911 and no one sees me anyway, no other human being comes into contact with me directly except through this podcast. What's the point of the beard? Might as well take it off. John, I will love you no matter how hideous you are clean shaven. It's not a good look, Tater. I'm not going to lie. There's a reason I grew the beard, but I want to know if people will still accept me without it. My dad did. All his friends did. My husband has a beard. Thank you. Folks, I didn't know you were married. Very interesting. Dana's fur. Yes, that's what April wanted. Beard hair eugenics. Even if the beard is gone. Thank you, Foxy. You're a true fan. I actually prefer clean-shaven dudes. I think I might be in the minority in this point. So what does that mean, Cupcakes? Does that mean I'll appeal to you more without a beard? Does that mean I might lose Salamander, but I might even gain more Cupcakes? Just curious. Do you shave your beard, King Leonidas? Do I? Do I shave it? Oh, don't you shave? Oh, he's telling me not to. Okay. Thank you for that flattering reference. I like it. What was the cocktail? Well, first of all, it was a little too boozy. I'm recovering right now. I wish I had some water right at this moment. I don't. What it was 8 cherries pitted, lime juice, a fuck ton of bourbon, too much bourbon, and a splash of cherry coke, garnished with a lime wedge and another cherry. And it was delicious, and it was kind of summery. And I've only had 2 of these. Not tonight. I've only had 1 tonight. But it was an Instagram recipe I saw, and I thought it was too good. I love cherries, so I had to. I would run Republican with a Dem vice president. Oh, so like Lincoln, Hannibal Hamlin. I think here we go.
Call from
I don't know if this is going to work.
to accept. Press.
I think it worked. How are you doing, bud?
Hey, just trying to. I can't look at my phone and talk on the phone, I guess, at the same time because it doubles up. So I'm just opening up my laptop here.
Okay, so you open up your laptop. Tell me when your laptop's open. Make sure your volume on your laptop's not turned up because I don't want to create an
It's all the way down. Yeah.
I don't want to create an infinite feedback loop that would destroy the internet. You
I'm
tell me
sure it would. You know it would.
It would. And you tell me when your laptop is up when you're watching the show. And I'm going to play a video for you in which an officer has to do a use of force. And I'm just curious what you think about it as a certified law enforcement officer. You are the blue half of Comm Center without Drew Breezy right now. I'm the dispatcher, right? And then you'll be the police officer, and you'll break it down. You'll tell me everything that you think. So I'll show it to you whenever you're ready. But while you're setting that up, how have you been? You were recently here in the lower 48.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. We went to California. We got invited by my in-laws to go to Disneyland, and that was super fun. I am a Disney fan, the old Disney, the classic Disney before the woke era, and so is my wife. So, we say, yeah, sure, we'll go down and have some fun. And we also did the gender reveal down there as well for the baby that's coming up here in a couple months. We spent a full week down there. You would not believe how hard it was to find an officer to do a shoulder flash trade, like a patch trade. I brought down a couple of mine, and I guess Anaheim would be the closest one. So we saw every day Anaheim guys posted outside the park gate. Every day I went up to them and I said, hey, you guys do patch trades? And every time they were like, no, sorry, we don't keep them on it. You're going to have to go down to their office. And their office was like 4 miles away, which is not reasonable. I didn't have enough time to walk or anything. Plus, I don't feel as safe being in a foreign country. So I don't like to wander around places I don't understand. So yeah, anyway, no, it was a good trip. Thanks for asking. I eventually got one. I got one from LAPD on Venice Beach. You guys were doing a foot patrol.
I would tell you, if you wanted to get a patch from any law enforcement agency, LAPD would be the coolest one to get one from. I know Anaheim, Venice, or whoever these other agencies are. Los Angeles Police, sort of renowned, both for good and bad, but Los Angeles PD is cool. You're safe in this foreign country, my friend. You could walk around for 4 miles, however long that is. I know that doesn't really translate to you, but I don't think it's worth walking.
There is no equation.
No, there's no equation to translate. I don't think that it would be worth walking 4 miles just for a shoulder flash, as you put it, which we would never call it that. But you could drive or somehow make motor your way down there. I don't know if you would say motor, but finding units that just have extra ones to carry around is not common in this country. Normally when you go to a conference or something like that, that's why when you said that you were trading shoulder flashes or patches, I was like, well, did you come down here to go to a conference? Did you do anything official, or was it all just a pleasure visit?
No, it's just a pleasure trip. But my office we have challenge coins, but my commander is a bit of he's a little cheap, to put it nicely. The whole sole purpose of the challenge coin is to commemorate other people, or you trade them. If they I don't know, like an active or like a thank you, for example. Very common in the trade. They might have a full display case right now, but he hoards them and he just uses the excuse of, well, it's taxpayers' dollars, so we don't want to be handing them out. And I'm like,
Oh,
well, we don't hand them
please.
out. We
No,
trade them.
that's
And
nonsense.
I know.
That's lie. He lied to you. We do that all the time.
I know he's lying.
I don't know if you can see me right now, but I have a whole bunch of patches
Yeah,
right
I got
here.
it up now.
I have a whole bunch of patches right here. I have your I don't know if I still have the envelope. If you wanted to send me your thing, I will send you a patch from my agency, my good man.
Yeah, you told me that last year, and I still haven't received anything.
Okay, I just got the patches is the thing. They literally just gave them to me.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'll do? Since you've had to wait twice as long, I'll send you one from the agency where I'm a dispatcher, and I will send you one from an agency where I'm a correctional officer.
Ooh, double. I like it.
So you'll get both. So I'm sorry. Please DM me your address. I'm sorry that I let you down. It actually hurts me to think that I somehow forgot about you. I don't know how to. I have no excuses. I won't say, well, I moved this past summer, or I do all these podcasts for you. I just fucked up, dude, and I'm sorry. And if you send it to me, I'll figure it out. And you know what? I'll even figure out how to give it over to the 49th parallel to you. So please send that to me again. I will. I want to make it up to you right away. I don't know. Like your card is right here. Like you have always.
Oh yeah.
You have always been in my set.
Oh yeah, I can see that. So I think there's a time delay on the video, so I'm seeing on like a 10 second difference.
You're just seeing it at a time delay. But I'll show like the partial back of your patch so I don't reveal where you're at. But this is yours as well, which I think I just outed you anyway. So fuck me. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's a big organization.
It's so big, but anyway. You send that to me. I'm going to get you twice the patches. I didn't have any from my own agency for the longest time. I asked a patrol sergeant, like, hey, could I get one of those? Because I just wanted one for me. And all of a sudden he comes by my office one day and he gives me like 14 of them. I'm like, this will work. Thank you. So, you will be getting, let me see how many I actually have. Oh, I have a whole bunch. Oh, I have so many. Yeah, I got plenty to send to you, my man. You will be getting one
Perfect.
of those.
I'll DM you.
You'll get one of those, and you'll get one from the agency where I live, and I'm a correctional officer, so that's going to teach you a whole lot about me.
Oh yeah. Well, I know that it works because you guys did send me last year, or was it 2 years ago now? I used my bookmark, my failure to stop bookmark that you guys all signed for my book on my nightstand. So I think there's a card as well from the meetup that I couldn't go to and on the East Coast there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have something for me. So
but I'm ready for that video.
I'm glad I didn't completely let you down. But yes, I will play the video, and yeah. I realize you're on a delay. Do you want me to just send you a link? Would you prefer to just join the show? You don't have to be in with camera, but at least you'll be able to watch and talk with me in real time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We can try that.
Would that be okay? I'm going to send you a link.
I'll have to.
And what I'll do is I'm going to send this to you on your, can I send it to your Instagram DM, or what would be best?
I'll probably email. I'll Instagram DM.
You send it to me. You send me your email address in my Instagram. Boy, I'm doing a lot here for someone that just bottomed down a cocktail. So if you ever wanted to learn how to do field sobriety tests through the internet, this is what that would look like if you ever wondered.
You just sit down. It's called active listening. You just shut up and let them think themselves.
Yes. Luckily, it's okay if I'm above a 0.08 to drive a podcast. Because, man, it really hit me fast.
That's right.
All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it. I've got your email address. I see that here. And I probably already had this too, now that I think about it. But maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. Maybe I don't want to say whether or not I
Has everybody left the chats because this is going crazy out here? I can't see it on my end.
I don't care if they leave the chats. If you guys want a big case breakdown of a wonderful officer involved incident, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to you, And make sure that when you enter, make sure that it doesn't say enter with the mic only. Don't use your cam. So there'll be a little box there that says, camera. Make sure that it's off through that. And then it'll just be easier for you to do that rather than try to react through the phone in a delay. Okay.
Sure.
Email's been sent. So check your email and let me know when you get that. And then I will see you pop up.
Okay.
And if somehow your camera pops on, I will take it off so that you're not on here. Just, make sure you're not showing anything untoward.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I got it right there. Okay, we're loading in now. Entering studio.
And when that happens, we'll also hang up.
Go into another browser.
Yeah, we'll hang up the phone too when you connect because there'll be no reason to have you on both. So.
Okay. But you can go ahead and read the comments if you like while I figure this out.
I'll read the comments. Okay. That's why I'm the perfect president, is because I don't want to have authority over anyone, because I don't want to be, according to Lauren. Las Mujeres said she'd get all the votes as a pro-choice Republican. It's funny. People are kind of all over the place on that issue. It's not always cut and dry left and right, red and blue. Give Jake's kids beer funds. Okay, I won't give you a refund then. We are down to 8, so that's too bad, but that's okay. Whatever. We'll get more people. They'll come back. The real reason they left is because they're seeing me a little loopy, so it's actually my fault.
No.
Let's see. Last one here says, yes, John, I remember what you drive. Although I thought it was a Dakota, not a Ram. Diesel 4x4. I have a Dakota and a Ram. I have both. John, the top shelf reacher. We will support you in your bad decisions. Yes, I'm sorry, everyone. It's not a good idea to drink on the show, and I won't do it again. Full face wax. Ouch. I won't be doing that. I will. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down with clippers and then shave it off. So this will actually be the end of my beard. If you guys wanted to have a little prayer for my beard or whatever, this will be the end of that. Grilled tacos. They're talking about grilled tacos, and some of them are leaving. Hugs and kisses from Las Mujeres, who thinks apparently that some people are a big deal. All right, we're all caught up on the chats. And we're back up to 10, so some people are back. They're back for the big case.
Hey, there you go. I haven't used Google Chrome apparently in forever, so I have to sign in.
If you want, if you feel like this is a pain, what we could do is we could do this next Thursday if you're not on duty. We could do the whole thing again. I don't care.
Well, I was supposed to work today, and I took the day off for a doctor appointment for the baby. But I am in now, and I'm just going to navigate to Gmail here.
Okay. I just don't want to put you out. I want you to have your shot. I want you to have the shot at the big time, because when I was a kid, and I think they had this in your country, probably because you guys watch a lot of our media, but we had this show called Star Search, where it was kind of a prototypical American Idol or whatever, America's Got Talent, where they took people who are kind of lower echelon entertainers. They play small clubs or whatever, put them in front of a national audience, see if they can perform. So this is basically your audition. Are you going to be, the next police podcaster? Are you going to be the police podcaster for your era? And I think we got you on the show. So
so I can probably hang up now.
You can hang up. I already put you on mute. Welcome to the show. So now you're here in real time, and everyone can hear you better. You guys can hear him if you want to
try and get my audio.
Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear him. Should be able to hear him. Do you want to play the theme first? Would that make you feel like you were ready? I'm going to play the theme while everyone waits.
City council members have announced their plan to disband the Minneapolis Police Department.
We're calling for defunding the police.
Shootings in New York City have more than doubled this year.
Now?
entertain and inform people all across the continent of North America. I'm John. I'm an active 911 dispatcher in the field. Joining me as our host for the first time ever is a police officer from somewhere way up north. How are you doing tonight, sir? It's been a long time since we last talked. How have you been?
This is ridiculous. This is funny. That was good.
That was a pretty good opening for one that I didn't have time to think of, and one I was slightly inebriated for, right?
Yeah, hey, yeah, whatever
Not
works.
bad. Well, tonight it's the case of a police officer somewhere down in Georgia when a police officer has to respond to the scene and a suspect draws a weapon. What is the appropriate response of a police officer? Of course, our host is an experienced police officer. He's been a police officer somewhere for over 100 years. I'm sorry, I don't know your exact number of experience, but you've been a cop for a while, right?
150.
Over 150 metric years. So just use your imagination on that one, everyone. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to some live body cam video. It's not live. I'm sorry. We're not streaming live from Georgia PD or wherever. But we're going to get the takes of a police officer who has been trained in shoot or no shoot drills. His police experience is slightly different from those down here in the United States, but he's going to tell us what he thinks and how it should have worked. So if you're ready, we're just going to go ahead and start breaking down body camera footage. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
All
I
right.
got everything all sorted out here.
There is one point where we missed. The main thing I mentioned to our audience is that at one point, because this is a media edit, a police officer responds to the scene. He sees a man with a knife. He orders him to drop it, and he draws his weapon. He then the man with the knife begins then to advance upon him. And there's this part of the video where you see a white flash, and I'll draw attention to it. But the media cuts this out because the media says, well, this is the boring part. But what actually ends up happening is that this police officer is he's in a cul-de-sac or a circle of a neighborhood where there's houses, and he actually ends up backing all the way out to the main street. So this police officer is pursued by this armed subject with a knife until he's finally forced to use force. So I'll stop it at various points and give you a chance to chime in. I'm going to go ahead and play it.
Okay.
Put the knife down! Knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put it down! Put it down!
Yeah, if you could just pause it there for a second.
Go for it. What do you think, sir?
Well, just from my experience and training, limited training that I have, instructing rather, one of the 7 tactical principles that we really ingrain into people is time and distance and the difference between cover and concealment. So like for these officers, and again, this is Monday morning quarterback. We're looking at the replay. We're not in this scenario. We're not having that adrenaline, the tunnel vision, the hyper focus into the scenario, because these guys have got to think about their backdrop, and these guys have got to think about potential, like a kid runs out from the bush all of a sudden. Things like this, it's the unknowns. We don't want to go be paranoid, but at the same time, we have to be real with ourselves and the world around us. One thing that I just noticed off the get-go is, did these officers need to approach the subject? There's wide open space between them. No, there's no need to do that. These guys could have easily put their car into park, exit the vehicle, and that's a point of not cover. It's not great cover, but if they post up between the A-pillar and the door, and they, if this guy decides to run at them, he has to get around a door, and they've got more distance. Again, that idea of that time and distance. So for these guys to get out of their vehicle and like fully out, they're standing there and they're now in the open. There's nothing between the two of them. There's no objects, no barriers. Maybe like if they go into a domestic situation in a house, I would want to put myself, maybe there's a table in the kitchen. I would want to put myself on the opposite side of that table, just so there's a barrier in the way in case that this subject tries to do something, to myself or whatever. And you're giving them commands. And again, we can't control people. If they want to listen, they'll listen to us. If they don't want to listen to us, they're not going to listen. So you want to try and mitigate the potential outcomes the best that you can. That's just the first thing I noticed is I would tell these guys, do you need to be standing out here in the open?
That's very interesting. A question for you as a police officer, as you said, they'd be standing between the A pillar and the door. And this guy suddenly charges. Would it be an option for them to retreat inside the car and close the door? Because then at least they'd have a stab-proof barrier between them and this guy. Would you see that as an option?
It's definitely an option. Like I put the comment earlier before you talked about this video. What I meant by that was every situation is different for every officer. So if this guy has a knife, we're typically trained to all draw our lethal force, our pistols. It's a defensive weapon. It's not an offensive weapon. If we need to go offensive for like an active shooter or whatever, that's what we have the carbine for. The pistol is typical of a defensive weapon. So if this guy starts charging at us, we're trained to stop the threat, because if the threat's coming towards us, there's the potential that he will kill us and then take our weapons and then cause more danger on the public. It's totally, that is an option to retreat back in your vehicle. Maybe your window's up, maybe your window's not up. Are your doors locked? There's lots of different variables. Maybe it turns into a blue on blue situation, because then your partner, again, your partner's risk assessment is different than yours. So maybe his risk assessment is, holy cow, he's trying to break into the vehicle, I'm going to try and shoot him, but then there's a possibility that he misses and he hits you. So
wow.
It's such a convoluted thing, and like I said, everybody's risk assessment is so different and unique. However, we try to mitigate that through training and facilitating scenarios and just repetition. This is a very common scenario that we see in scenario land, where you both draw out your pistol, and then if he's not moving and he's standing there and he's just talking to you, maybe you officers are in a triangle position with the subject and you want to communicate with each other, and one transitions to a less lethal, like a CEW or something. But again, this is all very fast, so we can carry on with the video.
I think the best point that you just made was something I would have never thought of. The pistol is a defensive weapon. Every time we see these police officers, we see these video breakdowns, police officers, in a sense, are defending themselves with a pistol. You made a great point with the carbine or the carbine. We've seen a lot of videos where police officers are responding to active shooters and they're taking rifles out of the back or carbines. And those are more assault type weapons, and this officer has a pistol. And if you think about it, this officer defending himself, that's a whole other different type of situation. So I thought that was very interesting. I'll go ahead and play it if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
As I often say to Drew, I said, with your permission, of course.
Oh yeah.
Permission granted, I assume. All right.
Put the knife down, sir. Oh, please. No.
So I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that you see here that we're in a completely different place now.
Mm-hmm.
We have he has completely walked out of that neighborhood, walking backwards, which I mentioned earlier in the show. When you see people at the gym, they're jogging backwards on the treadmill, because jogging or walking backwards is more difficult. It's more strenuous of an exercise. You mentioned the adrenaline. You mentioned the hyper focus on this guy. Of course, the officer doesn't want to trip, fall over backwards, and invite this guy to run towards him. What the media has cut out is that this officer has completely, because he does not want to shoot this man. He does not want to shoot. He's completely backed out of this neighborhood. Any more comments before I hit play?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what the distance covered is. It looks like a substantial distance. We're trained to stand your ground. You stand your ground, you give the commands, and if the commands aren't followed, then you have to deal with the situation accordingly. This guy, if he closes the distance on you and he's got the aim, the ability, the intent, and the means to use that weapon on you, then you're going to defend yourself in the name of public safety and the commission of an offense, essentially, through use of force. This opens up different risks for himself, the officer, and the subject, and the public. If there's a bend in the road, they're going out onto a highway, it looks like. Okay, so then subject says, you know what, technically I'm assuming he's under arrest. Technically he's under arrest, so now he's in the care and control of police of the state. So if he says, I'm going to fuck these cops over, and there's a semi truck I can see coming down the road there, and then he says, you know what, I know the system so well, these guys are so fucked, and he throws the knife away, maybe he keeps it on him, and then he runs into that truck, gets squashed, and then all of a sudden it's now an in custody death. because they weren't able to gain control of the subject. There's lots of different variables. Again, I don't know what this officer was thinking. I don't know what his risk assessment was. It looks like it's 2019 in the top right. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep. So it's before the
this is-
George Floyd thing.
so this
Listen
is
to this
before-
guy's awareness. He's aware of the truck. He's aware of the year. You're doing a great job. Fantastic.
Well, this is it just comes with 3 years of experience, I guess. But this is before George Floyd. So, but again, you join the job. You want to help people. You don't want to take life. You don't want to shoot anyone. You want to catch the bad guys, and sometimes the bad guys do this to you. Yeah, I think he probably a Monday morning quarterbacking it. I think he went too far.
So, just in your opinion, to clarify, the officer should have shot already. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'll keep going with your permission.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
No! Put the knife! Shots fired, Central, shots fired! Put the knife! Hands behind your back!
Any thoughts so far what you've just seen? You obviously shot 4 or 5 times.
I was wondering who that person was standing a couple seconds ago down the way, and I think that's his partner.
Yep.
That's kind of like a little bit of a pucker factor there. I don't know if you saw that, but that was almost in line with the subject. So that's a kind of a scary moment of, am I going to miss and hit my partner? We're always constantly trained to think of our backdrops. And I don't know if the partner was just so dumbfounded as to what the fuck was going on. Because really, that's exactly what these are, is everyone's so hyped up. Everyone's thinking, what the fuck is going on? Everyone's trying to process what's going on in seconds. It looks like his shots were effective. I mean, the guy's on the ground. As long as he doesn't, like if the knife's gone and the guy's no longer an active threat, as long as he doesn't keep shooting this guy, I think it's a good shoot.
Okay. Something else to think about. You mentioned the backdrop. You remember we just retreated out of a neighborhood and out onto what you're calling a highway, which it may be a highway.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of the backdrop is, he is shooting down and hopefully towards the road. But, farther behind, if he is forced to shoot more, horizontally, more parallel to the horizon, those stray rounds could go back into that same neighborhood where you were just concerned about a child running out. So just something to think about. The officer might be thinking about a child in the neighborhood. He might be thinking about his partner. Those could be two reasons for the delay. But so far, he has discharged his weapon, and so far we say it's a good shoot. So with your permission, I'll continue further.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
And from here, I'm just going to let it play until you say pause. And it's okay if you say pause in 2 seconds, and it's okay if you say pause in 30 seconds. Okay?
Sure.
Here we go.
Ah, no! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! No! Get on the ground, man!
Yeah, you can pause there. Yeah, so okay. I don't see a knife on the ground, so clearly he's still armed. Yeah. I mean, it's blurred. We can't see it. I'm assuming because of the blood.
Yes, I would say so. He did get shot like 4 times.
Well, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, okay, so let's assume he's still got the knife on him, so he gets back up. And so it's still an active threat. So, I mean, if the threat is still active, by definition, they can continue firing on him. And they're still giving him commands, and he's still not listening. Looks like there's a fire truck there, so he might run at the EMS or fire and maybe take a hostage. So there's lots of potential bad things that could happen here. So I think they might shoot him again here. If you want to go ahead now.
I completely agree. And this is something I didn't even think about before, was the fire truck. Somehow I missed that. You do have excellent observation skills, which is why I'm glad that you're copying it up instead of me. But dispatch has obviously staged the fire department a safe distance away from the knife situation. And because the police officers failed to contain it, or because the subject was so aggressive, he got out of the containment or perimeter area and is now close to other first responders, placing their lives in danger, or their safety at least. I'll continue to play.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tase him! No!
Okay, yeah, you can stop right there.
So what we just saw was a transition between 2 cameras. So we saw him. This is the subject in yellow approaching officer number 1. This subject wraps his arms around him. That's here we are now from the body cam of Officer 2. We can see that the officer who discharged those first 4 or 5 rounds is now being wrapped up. You can see his right hand is on his gun, attempting to reholster his weapon. He's worried about weapons retention. I'm not sure if I see a knife in this guy's hands at this point or not. It's possible that he has it. It's possible that he doesn't. But obviously the officer is in extreme danger here. Go ahead.
Yeah, and like you said, we can't see the knife because of the blurring mostly. But if there was a police report that we could read or something that said that he was still had it in his hand, then yeah, for sure. I heard him say transition, so that's making me think that either one, he's panicking, the officer is panicking, and he doesn't want to use lethal force with this guy, and they want to use as less force as necessary, which is actually contrary to the truth. We're supposed to use we're not supposed to use excessive force. We're supposed to use as much force as reasonably necessary. So if you can articulate it reasonable, then that's fine. So I think he's probably panicking, scared, wants to use less lethal. The second thing that makes me think that, yeah, he might have dropped the knife, because if the cop is switched on enough to see that this guy no longer has anything in his hands, you will be charged and most likely found guilty of manslaughter or murder if you shoot an unarmed person, unless you're damn good at convincing judges otherwise.
Yeah.
One example that I had when I was instructing was we call these flash scenarios, without giving too much away because they're based off of real events. You take a voluntary officer, put them on their back. They're facing away from the subject. You put the subject behind them, and then you tell the officer to swing around on his back. And then all of a sudden this, pretend bad guy is over top of you, swinging at you, and he's not armed. He's just swinging at you. What do? The scenario was designed to make officers aware of basic ground fighting movements, clearing space, getting on your feet, drawing your taser, for example. This one officer was on his back, and he wasn't in the greatest fitness level, and he drew his pistol, and he said that he, bang, 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 or whatever, because it's all fake. And then we talked about it afterwards. Why'd you do that? And then he was 100%. He would for sure do that. And I just don't know. As an instructor, I can't tell him he's wrong because it's personal risk assessment. And I was like, do you think you can sit after you're charged and just gone to a grand jury? You're going to be able to justify this? And he said, yeah, I think so. I was like, okay, just that's what these scenarios are designed for, is to get you thinking about that. So that's what I'm thinking about here is the knife no longer in his hands? And then this guy's just like, oh shit, we need to transition to a less lethal, a taser.
I think you're right. If you, with your permission, I'll back it up a little bit, because after the suspect is shot, he stands up and then starts approaching the officer to the right, on the right-hand side of the screen. And an officer, you can hear him shout, taser, taser. And I was wondering about that, because why would you transition from lethal force to less lethal? Earlier, I said it was because it just seemed like the gun was ineffective. So maybe we're going to play this high-minded science game where we're going to disrupt his motor cortex with the taser, right? But right. I'll go ahead and back it up a little bit, just so that you could see that part where they're talking about switching over to the taser. And it's when after he gets up and he's approaching the fire truck that they mentioned the taser. So I'll start from here.
No! Get on the ground, man!
Did you see that? Did you see that? Sorry.
No, go for it.
I heard like metal hitting the ground, and the body cam quickly went to the left there, and I saw a shiny object between the yellow lines.
Okay.
Yeah, right around here.
I'm officially calling you Eagle Eye from here on out, because you're catching things that I cannot catch. So I hope you have Thursdays free from now on.
Oh
yeah.
No!
So right here, I think he tosses it.
You think so?
Did you hear that?
I heard that. You think he tossed it away and then he realizes he doesn't have a reason to be shot again? That's very interesting.
Maybe.
Because then what you said is right. This guy knows he almost has some real idea of what the engagement is. He knows if he drops the knife, now he can just come and clobber these guys. I'm going to play it one more time. Everyone try to listen for that sound of metal.
Get on the ground! No! Get on
Yeah,
the
right
ground,
there.
man!
Did you see it? Yeah, that's definitely it.
I didn't see it, but I definitely heard it. I heard kind of the tinkling sound of the glass on the pavement.
I definitely saw it. It looked like a long edged way, like a Bowie knife almost.
Get on the ground, man! Tase him!
He kind of went back to the left there. Oh no, there he goes. Okay. So yeah, now he's coming and grabbing the officer. The first officer is worried about weapons retention, so we want to make sure that his gun's not being stolen. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on this as he's being seized and retaining that weapon? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so there's actually a scenario that you go through at the academy like this, where you have your buddy, like let's say you and me, we're paired up for this PDT session. So then the scenario is that you have me in a headlock, and the scenario is I'm a lone officer. I know he's not a lone officer here, but I think it still applies because remember, risk assessment is personal. So the use of force, he's not going to rely on his partner to hopefully choose the right amount of force on this guy. So he's going to take it into his own hands. So let's say, you've got me in a headlock. The scenario is I have my pistol in my hand and he's got me in a headlock. I can use this pistol to shoot him behind me. If you're competent and confident in your skills, maybe he's not, and he doesn't want to. And of course, weapon retention is always on our mind. So maybe he thinks that maybe he needs to secure his weapon so that this guy doesn't get his hands on it, and maybe he's going to grapple with him on the ground. Maybe he's going to pull out his baton. Maybe he's going to, I don't know, do something else. But that's my thoughts.
What do you think about batons? I've heard some people say that they're useless and they're not for anything, and then I've heard some people say that they're all about it. I mean, obviously, if this guy doesn't have a knife anymore, I'd rather fight him with a baton than my bare hands. But what is your general thoughts on the baton?
Well, my general thoughts is that I've only ever used it twice in my career, and both times was to break open windows of cars. Oh. The baton, the risk factor there is that you're introducing another weapon into play that's not easily holstered. Yeah. So as soon as you extend that baton, a lot of people don't know how to collapse it, and it's not as easy as people think.
It's not easy at all. I got one
right.
for my birthday, and I cannot fucking collapse it for anything. Do I have to oil it or what? Am I just not strong? Is that what you're trying not to say? Say, well, you're just not very strong.
Well, I'm not saying it. I don't want to give people any hints on how to collapse.
No hints, everyone. Do not own batons. Something else that's important is that we call a baton a less lethal weapon, but it's very important to emphasize that a baton is a lethal weapon, because if you hit someone in the head with it, there's a good chance they're going to die. Particularly if you get a lot of kinetic energy follow through and contact, you're going to kill that person. Would you agree?
I totally agree. Again, I said this earlier about the pistol being a defensive weapon. We're taught and we do teach that everything on your belt is defense. So the baton is not, sometimes you'll see body cam footage of some guys extending their baton and then chasing people. That's totally wrong. Your baton is a defensive weapon. Same with your OC spray.
Very interesting. I am learning so much stuff that I probably should have already known as someone who carried a baton. But you know what? Better late than never. Even though I'm not carrying one anymore, at least they probably told me that at the time. And then, I haven't even thought about using or carrying a baton in almost 10 years. So it probably just slipped away at some point. But let me ask you this before I continue. We can see here that the officer is going down. He's trying to retain his pistol. Suspect's got him, in some sort of Nelson or headlock or whatever it is you want to say it. And now this officer has his pistol pointed at both his partner officer and the suspect. I just want to take your guess. How do you think it's going to play out? Do you think shots will be fired? Do you think the subject will be taken into custody safely? What's your guess?
I have no idea. This is a huge pucker factor right here. Clearly, he's realizing like this guy's going to kill or put grievous bodily harm or death. He fears grievous bodily harm or death for his partner and or himself. So, I mean, he's justified in using that pistol. However, his partner's right there, right? So, there's the possibility of hitting his partner. I think he's probably sees that now, so he's probably gonna reposition himself. And I don't know. I think if he repositions himself and gets close enough to, I don't want to say in lame's terms, people say the style that I'm thinking of as an execution style shooting, but sometimes you need to get that close to defensively use a weapon. So maybe he gets that close to this guy in order to save his partner's life. But that's tough too, because you are going to be castrated by the media because they'll say this cop executed this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right on there in terms of your statutes. This is something that's the same for both you and me, but risk of death or grievous bodily harm. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I mean, this guy's got a gut wound. He's getting blood all over the officer. I mean, you could contract a bloodborne pathogen this way. I mean, no jury and no media is going to go for this, but like you're at some risk right now of contracting an illness that could kill you, to say nothing else of the physical aspects. So I think even if you go way off into the weeds, you could make the case. But certainly, the fact that he's going down, that the weapon retention is worrisome. Obviously, if the suspect gets the firearm, everybody all around here, the firemen, this police officer vantage point we're seeing, they're all in extreme danger. If you have nothing else, I'll go ahead and we'll see how it plays out.
No, yeah, I think that's good. You said something that had me thinking, but that's all right. If it comes to me, I'll mention it.
Yeah, if it comes to you, just say something. And also, you also have full pause rights throughout the rest of this video. So if something changes or if it needs to be commented on, you could say pause at any time. Everyone else on the show has already seen it. So what they're trying to get is your commentary. So feel free to say pause.
Sure.
Here we go.
Shut up! Hey, you good? You good? You good? Essentially, just shot the gun for nose off.
And that is that. What were your final thoughts on that shot and having the other officers go over and kind of pick him up off the ground? What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, for the shit show that it was, I mean, I'm glad the only one that really got substantially hurt was the bad guy. He did kind of what I said he would do, is he repositioned himself a little bit. He took a couple steps to the right and took a couple shots. I think those shots were a little far away for me. I think he could have reasonably gotten closer, and because the further away you are from your target, more likely the chances of missing are likely to occur. So the closer you are to the target, less likely you're going to miss. Maybe you could have taken a couple steps in so that he for sure got all of his shots downrange on target. And then, of course, as partners, going in to pull Buddy out of that situation is good, because we want to remove anyone from, even a civilian. If that was a civilian, you want to get them out of the way as soon as possible. But I think that was pretty good.
What's the final debriefing? If you've got to sit down these officers, and let's say you're their sergeant, you're the lieutenant, you're their captain, or whatever ranks exist where you are, who could even imagine? But you've got to sit them down, and you've got to decide whether or not to retain these people, to suspend them, to send them back for retraining, to fire them. Do you think that you're going to be telling them that they need to be more assertive, more aggressive? Do you think that they acted maybe appropriately, but not as quickly enough? Like, what would be your final, if you were going to give them advice on how to handle this situation differently, what would that be as a command staff person?
Typically, as like where I work, the command staff don't typically give that sort of feedback. There are people designated for that, and even some units, and so is some training designated for that after a case like this. However, there have been some major incidents where there's been a debrief after. If you're the one directly involved with the shooting, you're most likely just going to have one-on-one briefings, because you're going to be under investigation by the local watchdog oversight group. So you're not going to be able to talk even like a debrief or of the sorts. So to answer your question, how I would handle it would be make sure those officers got the time off that they needed to comprehend what happened. Even though a lot of guys say that they're good to go, gone are the days where your sergeant says, "Hey, are you okay?" And then you say, "Yeah," and they go, "Okay, great. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Take the rest of the day off." Gone are those days. Those days are okay. You know, you're gonna take you're off for the foreseeable future. We'll stay in touch and we'll talk. Here's some mental health people that are going to want to talk to you and whatnot. One really good thing about my organization is that we have a specific team. It's called the reintegration program. So, and it's for lots of it covers a wide eligibility canvas. So if you're away from work for a significant amount of time, let's say you're a female and you wanted to raise your kids for 2 years and you're away from work and wanted to come back, you may not be comfortable going back. So then they want to reintegrate you into being a police officer. On the further side of the spectrum, there's an incident like this. You're officer involved shooting like these guys. If I was their watch commander or a supervisor, I would put them in the reintegration program from what I saw for the refresh them on their 7 tactical principles and use of force, the continuum. Because I think I've heard you guys talk about that before, or like Drew's brought that up before too, where they talk about the use of force continuum.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is public information. You can Google it. It's called the IMIM. I should know what it actually is, but it's just IMIM.
That's okay. Just consider it classified. You don't have to admit that you didn't know something. You just say, "I would love to share that with you," but unfortunately, unfortunately, you guys are a foreign country that I don't feel safe walking around in. So I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for.
Yeah, exactly.
I really appreciate that. You are a lot better at that than I am. So when I jump on this after show and I break it down video, I should. I just decided this on a whim because we mentioned at the end of the episode of Comm Center about how police officers are not feeling confident in situations where they should shoot. Right? You know, you're bringing a gun to a knife fight. We talked about how police officers don't feel like the community is going to back them up. David called in. David said, well, you know, it's not just Ben Crump sitting on their shoulder, you know, this attorney that is suing all these police officers for wrongful use of force. It's also, you know, what has their personal experience been as a police officer? Have they already had multiple problems with use of force complaints? Have they already had an issue where their use of force has been questioned? Is that making them question themselves further? Am I going to be justified? Am I going to be in the captain's office this weekend? Is the media going to excoriate me? Is my hometown going to burn?
And that's, if I could interrupt you there for a quick second, that's always in the back of our minds, because in Canada, it's called a McNeil disclosure. So if you have any sorts of investigations through the criminal courts, that's disclosable whether you're found guilty or not. So even for a simple, like me as an investigator, if I have a McNeil history, I have to disclose that in every single one of my investigations throughout my entire career.
Oh, great.
So
does that impeach your credibility for the
It
next time
absolutely does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. You're right. And my commander brought up something that he totally disagrees. It's interesting, and I disagree with it as well. It's interesting how a criminal can commit something like a sex assault, and they can get found guilty, and then in 10 years they can apply for I forget what it's called, to get their record expunged or whatever. Maybe it's 20 years. I don't know what the time minimums is for that. And then that can go away. Whereas me as a police officer, if I have something on my McNeil history, there's no way you're ever able to get rid of that. You can't appeal it. You can't ask for it to get expunged after a certain amount of time. It follows you your whole career. So criminals really do get away with a lot more than what we do.
In the United States, we don't have that. You're a registered sex offender. That sticks for life. We don't. I mean, you could always go through some sort of process to have that, if you get pardoned or you somehow get that expunged, that would be an extraordinary thing. But you're run-of-the-mill sex offender. That sticks forever. And a defense attorney can inquire. Once you're up on the stand, and they can ask you all kinds of questions about your prior history as a police officer, and of course you would have to answer truthfully. But those things would not necessarily be in the public record until you were cross-examined. So that's too bad. You must feel like once you have a strike or a blemish in that McNeil record you mentioned, you must feel like tainted goods. You must feel like you're a less effective police officer. That sounds terrible.
That McNeil also, I don't know, I can't speak for other agencies, but that McNeil also, and this is another stressor that police officers go through, is that code of conduct, like things internally within the organization. If you're found guilty of like a code of conduct thing, that's a McNeil disclosure. So not only are we worried about media, public perception, are we doing the right thing on the streets, but we also have to think about, are we doing the right thing in the office? Did I look at my coworker the wrong way and they took offense and they put in for, now I'm looking at a harassment investigation internally, right? Through the internal code or whatever. So there's so much that goes on that the public isn't aware of. But going back to this video, I think that definitely those guys would benefit from going into a reintegration program and a refresher on use of force and tactical considerations, officer perceptions, and everything that goes in with that.
It's very interesting that you mentioned, if a fellow police officer takes some offense at the way you look at them or something. Obviously, like all workplaces are very charged with, they're very fraught, I guess I should say, with gender politics issues. I'm guessing especially police in the modern era, where I guess I don't want to get it too into, but sometimes, female police officers can feel disrespected, and sometimes they can be disrespected, and that can be genuine. But I'll tell you, I'll just speak to my own experience so that I'm not putting my hand in my mouth here. But like one time as a correctional officer, and I've told the story on Hard Time, but we had an inmate in our mental health ward where, he's guilty of a crime. He's a felon, but he's more mentally ill than he is anything else. He's not a problem causer. He's not someone who's fighting people. He mostly just eats his pills, stays in a cell, comes out and has lunch, and then stays in a cell. That's all he does. He's having an asthma attack one day. Well, these guys don't have asthma inhalers because, of course, they could be taken apart and manufactured into weapons. So he's having an asthma attack. He sits down. We've got to have someone else respond from the clinic with a rescue inhaler for him. While that's on the way, I sit down next to him and I put my hand on his shoulder. I'm like, we have help coming to you. Do the best you can to take deep breaths. We're going to take care of you. Try not to freak out. And I'm just calming him down, right? Because if he gets up, if he walks around, if he starts panicking, he's going to use up more oxygen in his blood supply. So I put my hand on his shoulder. Officer in the control pod watching over this writes me up for raping him.
Really?
I've been accused of rape by another correctional officer for putting my hand on a person's shoulder. And the captain brought me in and he says, so Officer so-and-so wrote you up for rape. This obviously doesn't meet the statute in any sense of what rape is. In some sense, we're allowed to casually touch, inmate, especially if we're offering some kind of care. There's implied consent. All I'm doing is calming him down. But the idea that someone doesn't like me and then all of a sudden they can be making accusations which might seriously damage my career, that's very scary. So I'm sorry that you guys are kind of fraught with that, and that must give a lot of power to a lot of people who might abuse it. It's kind of what my perception is.
Mm-hmm. And it's like that in every workplace. It's not just unique to ours, but it definitely has more. No, it's not. Sorry, my wife was asking me if you guys could see me. It's definitely more harmful in our line of work. Whereas if you're in a corporate office somewhere, media doesn't find out. There's no disclosure that you have to do for every meeting you have or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's not just women as well. It's men too. Men are can be just as sleazy and abusive towards that sort of thing. And it really downplays the importance of the real victims for things like that, right? So, well, this was fun, John. Sorry to keep you up.
No, it's okay.
You're actually keeping me up now, so I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. You two go to bed. You tell your wife I said hello and congratulations, and Thanks for contributing
I
to
will.
this wonderful breakdown. You're quite pro compared to me. I'll just let you go. Don't forget to send me that DM though, because I want to get you that stuff. Tomorrow's my day off. I will have time to do it, so please send that to me
Awesome.
before you go to sleep. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, buddy. And thanks all. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks for contributing. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was awesome. He just has an eye for things that I would have never thought of, and he's thinking about things that I would have never thought of. You just can't make up for a real police perspective. Catching up with the chats before we go, I do have a video to play for you at the end. All the people who wanted to see the video, of course, were all here at the beginning, and now they're all gone. I remember what you drive, although I thought it was a Dakota. We already talked about that. I am a reacher of things up high. You'll support me in my bad decisions. Don't shave the beard, wax it. I'm not going to do that. I like a good clean shave. Not doing that. Lost Will Harris had to leave. We talked about that. Marine's blood still here. We're way down, way down. Such a dope intro. Dewey made that. So if you like that, Dewey made that. It was nice to do the intro and then pretend that we were doing a show here with Tanner. I mean, he was in the chat, so you know who it was. So it was nice having a comm center with Tanner. We'll have to do that again just because I thought his breakdown of it was expert, you know. John was so upset when you weren't, he downed a bottle of bourbon and buried a hooker in the backyard. I don't have the energy to bury a hooker. Hey, Carly. Good to see you here. It's been a while. Nice to see you here. She's saying hearts about something. Oh, hearts for each other. You guys love each other, I guess. Whatever. I don't know. You guys are all saying hello. Beignet, I thought I would never see you again. It's nice that Carly showed up. Carly, where the hell have you been? Honestly. Going back to greatly reduce your options, and if you breaks your glass, you could have glass everywhere. Yeah. Jumping into the car wouldn't be my first choice either, but I would rather jump into the car and not be stabbed, I guess. People talking to Beignet and Carly. Boy, people sure do love her a lot. I like her too. It's just, you know, I feel so behind in the first of John's show that I have gotten to take part in. Welcome, Tyler, my brother, an almost identical name from the Great White North. Maybe the officer's transitioning because he's speaking his truth and living his real gender. Very funny, Michael, but not that funny. Great eyes, yes. He was really noticing stuff. Baton's hurt. He's going to pull out his kabutan. I think that's a specific kind of thing, kind of baton. Played it small motion and both his hands are empty. Very good. Tanner saw that he dropped the weapon. Wife is an angel. She's nice to put up with it while you're, beginning your podcasting career. Great breakdown. That was very good to have him here. I really liked giving another police officer to just come on here and have a chance to step in the role of Drew and so many others. You guys know the parent podcast where we came from, but it was cool to just have me as the 911 dispatcher and have a police officer step in and break that down. And I think that was fun. And I think that might be a feature that we do going forward more often, as long as I can have a police officer who's willing to do it. I can't just put people on the spot. So I put him on the spot a little bit. I also kind of invited him. But if he wanted to come back, or if another police officer wants to break things down, just have your own opinion. All these podcasters who are breaking stuff down, whether it's Mike the Cop or whoever, it's all just your opinion. So if you're a police officer and you somehow watch this and you're interested in doing a case breakdown with me on the after show, it doesn't have to be a big deal. We could do it just like we did it. That would be fun. And you'd get a chance to maybe do some of the things that you've liked on some of the podcasts that you've seen. I just thought it was very interesting, and I hadn't planned for that at all. John, how was your day today? Mine was much more like a Monday than a Thursday. Mine was definitely a Friday. It's late Friday night for me. I'm going to be going to bed soon. But for you 7 people who stayed, even my sister's gone, I'm going to play a video for you because that's how we usually take out the show. Play you a video of a film that I made from my past. This one's a little bit more, you have to kind of key into this one a little bit. This one, you have to just watch. There's a lot of sounds going on. Here's not a lot of dialogue. We're experimenting with telling a story with no spoken words. So all it is first person point of view storytelling. So it's very interesting. I'll let it play. I think we got him. We made that one Saturday just for fun. I think it was all in one take. We posted this to social media. And so Dewey's the worship leader of our church. So you maybe saw in a previous video, made the whole church mad. Everyone was upset. People were calling the pastor. Someone got in touch with his mom, wanted to know, like talked to his mom and said, like, are you sure that Dewey's alive and okay? Still others, you had like we had one person who's like a retired veteran who goes, that's not, it's a lot harder to kill a man than that. So he wasn't fooled at all. We were just having fun, you know? Yeah, what do the neighbors think? What are these bad neighbors? Not one of these neighbors cared at all. I do fit the kidnapper vibe pretty well. You know, I didn't take any prisoners though. Because how comfortable I was. Yeah, I really took to it like a duck to water. Some Dexter shit. It was just for fun. Dewey likes making those kinds of movies. And we were experimenting. We're just having fun. No big deal. I want to say thank you to the people who dropped us money. That would be David J. $2 because he wanted to call in. And of course, Tanner as well, because he cares. We appreciate that. Also, thanks to Tanner for that massive breakdown. Can you believe he paid me and then did work for me? And then I didn't even send him the thing that I said that I would do like years ago. Thanks to David, who was in the chats earlier. We also had Falk around, and Find Out was here. Marine's Blood was here. Silliman was here. Christy was here. We appreciate all you guys. Marine's Blood, probably the one who's going to be criticizing my killing technique. Dewey was here. Drew was here. Chase still here. Mike Dutcher was here at one point. Might be gone. Who else was here? Seems like we sustained an audience of the same folks for quite a while. I know Las Mujeres was here. Lauren was here. Tyler's here. He was here as well. I think Micah was here. Micah was here for a little bit. Who else was here? I think I mentioned Lauren already. Las Mujeres, Falker, and Tyler. I mentioned David. I think I mentioned everybody showed up. We didn't see Salt Spreader this week. Oh, Carly and Beignet stopped in. Didn't want to not mention Carly and Beignet. We appreciate you stopping in as always. Everybody that stopped in to see the show. Lauren just dropped $4.99 towards the next short film. And Falk around to Find Out also drops $1.99 because she loves us. Dewey's going to be out of commission for a little bit. Dewey is on a quest, on a personal quest. So Dewey's stepped out of the production role for a while. He will return in time. I'm going to do my best to keep up with him. Tonight was a show that I produced. So like my technical glitches where I wasn't in the beginning of the show and everything else I tried to add. I'm just going to try to keep things together till he gets back. Dewey, we care about you. We miss you. I don't know if you're watching this, but we appreciate all that you do around here. Can't wait to see you again. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all the donations. It means a lot that anyone would give me money to do anything, that you guys would call in and watch this entire show. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back here on Monday, I believe, for another coffee break. And then, of course, Thursday, we're going to be back here again for Hannah Payne Part 3. Look forward to trial stuff. Look forward to, we're going to have the dispatch supervisor take the stand, talk about what dispatchers do in situations where we advise people not to follow. Hannah Payne will probably testify and some other good stuff. Drew's going to break it down in his expert and unique style. So thank you to all the commies, communist commanders, commandants, whatever it is you are, however it is you identify, whatever it is your personal truth. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for supporting me. I would feel a lot stupider if I had been here for 2 hours and 47 minutes talking to nobody. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.